So I was thinking.
Yeah, I don't blame you guys. I can see a guy in the back lighting a match right now. Take it easy. Listen, it's going to be an outstanding show. I know you guys are excited. There's been a lot of hoopla and a lot of great banter back and forth on Twitter today. I got to say this much. This is an exciting episode for me because not only do we have a great returning guest to the show, but on top of that, we've got a situation here where we've had almost like a mini E3 this week. So there's just so much to talk about with E3 just around the corner. Let me get started here and just say this much. I want to say thanks to all the Mooch Maniac family members, guys. As you can see right above the description, there is a join button right there. We do have some amazing things coming out in the next 2 to 3 weeks. They are on order, and a lot of the Mooch Maniacs are going to be getting something from the Mooch. That's right. You will be mooching from the Mooch. It is going to be a revolutionary event. Speaking of revolutionary events, we have the Pope, the great Xbox Pope, formerly known as Xbox Pope. Pope Art is in the chat. We know that the podcast has been blessed. Great to have the Pope here. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning or midnight in England. It's outstanding to have you here. Pope, thank you so much, buddy. But I do want to take a second here and just go through and roll call all the great folks that make the Mooch Maniac channel members this amazing. You guys make the channel this amazing. If it wasn't for you guys, just wouldn't be here. The great Sir X-Man, JudaZuk, WoolleyGamer, Ben Link, Fail Pyromancer, Frostbite Slash, Zombilla Ice Cream, CustodsX, Hustle and Motivate, AceJunky, Two-Tone SB, Replicant, Damion, JWE316, MumbleRanting Gaming, Tyson Web 509, Mr. Twister, All-Round Gamer, TrueWiddy, DeathSkry, Kn1ght Ripper7, Wraith The Emperor, Big Chuck 777, our major Mooch Maniac, Smokes 901, Bryant Carter, Tactical Gamer, That Guy Smitty, Humacast, Ice Queen Gaming, The Wise Old Gamer Star, 4-star General, Sean Slomka, Brian B, a.k.a. Delirium Blades, and our VIP Mooch Maniacs, the great Marty Bison, Forkboy Gaming, MexJ88, Remarkable Knights, Rich Kreiser, Rated D Demonic, the great Percolator 9000, and our honorable mentions, Wendigo Rex, we miss you! Director Productions, Wilmy Hood, and the forever Mooch Maniac Longshot 316. Guys, get ready. Because not only do we have a great panel here now, we've got a few folks coming as the show progresses. That's what CrossFire's turned into. We've got a show, and then we have a show that just keeps piling on and on and on. It gets better and better as the show goes on. That being said, the man circled around Madison Square Garden. He refuses to come in at 7 p.m. He's 7:05 because he is the unscripted Crap Gamer. Crap makes his infamous return back. Crap, great to have you here tonight. How are you this evening?
Yeah, it's good to be back. I think I was in here at 7:02, so it wasn't
Not
5
bad.
After. It wasn't too bad. Yeah, it was about 2 after, but it's been a crazy week. There's a lot of news going on, and it's weird calling everything E3 because there's not really like
it's not
an E3. It's just like all these companies are kind of doing their own digital things or whatever. But
right.
Still, it's like the E3 atmosphere, I guess, more than we've gotten last year.
True.
So I'm looking forward to seeing what's going on with that. And it's just a fun time, like seeing the game announcements and the gameplay, and get you really kind of excited for what's coming out and the future of these consoles.
It does.
Man. I mean, we invest. As gamers, we invest a lot of money and time into these things, and you want to see them kind of pay off your dividends a little bit, and so it's nice to see that kind of come about, And so I'm excited. I'm sure the panel's excited. So let's go.
All right, appreciate that Crap. And then he said he was going to be late, but just because he stuck his foot in the door before we even got started, the Great Basement Radio Arcade Podcast. Brap, welcome to the show, buddy. How are you tonight?
It's great to be back, man. Like I missed last week, and last week's show was fire. And we got Tim Dog in the house.
Yes,
Tim, what's going on, man?
I know it. Look at that, Brap. I'll tell you something, Brap. There's 2 things Brap does outstanding. He has a great pre-show and doesn't let the show start, and then Brap introduces the special guest, the great Brap. That's outstanding, Brap. Thank you. I appreciate it. You're my head. You're like the ethics man I never had. Yes,
I am, but it's always a great time to have Tim on. And I have a podcast with Tim in I think probably like 2 or 3 years. I think. And Tim, it's been too long, man. So it's great to see you, man.
It's great
to see you too.
Great to have Brap here tonight. Then I've got my buddy here, Nicholas Downey, aka Undead. Nick, It is outstanding to have you back on the show, buddy. Me and you've been kind of going back and forth behind the scenes as well. And just due to scheduling, it's been a little tough to get you, but it is outstanding to have you back. And tonight, I got to be honest with you, even though I would have loved to have you the last 2 times I wanted to have you on, tonight's the night that I really want to get your opinion because I've seen you've been deep into discussion on Twitter in the past couple of days, and it's going to pertain to every single category. Nick, how are you this evening, buddy?
Doing good. On vacation for the first time in 8 months, so just
Good
been
for you.
relaxing, playing video games, and having a good old time. Ready to talk about all the exciting stuff that's happened this week.
Appreciate that, Nick. And then I've got a lady here that needs almost zero introduction at all. She was under fire this week, but gave the shots right back from the Backlog podcast herself. Erica Cuts for the win. Erica, welcome to the show. And I know because of the Pacific East Coast time zone difference, it is difficult for us also to match up, but I'm glad you're here this evening. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me again. Yeah, sometimes that time zone kind of is a little tricky, but I'm working from home now, so it's a little easier. I feel like I just hop off one computer, hop on the other. I'm here. But yeah, no, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, the thing about it is you say that, and I'm kind of sad because it shouldn't be sad. We should be excited, right? Hopefully the remnants of the pandemic is slowly starting to go away and things are... going back to work is right around the corner, so the working from home thing is going to be coming to an end for me very shortly.
And my apologies. That's us.
Yeah,
my sympathy.
Hey, Mooch, can I ask Erica a quick question?
Please.
What's up?
So, Erica, I have a quick question for you. One, how do you spell Erica Cuts for the win?
Oh.
And two,
oh my God.
and two, what's the best platform to game on right now?
Listen, you know the answer to number 2, but
those
for
are
number
loaded.
1, you being messy right now, Brett. You being
I'm being a little messy.
Real messy.
Shout out to Hustle. I'm sure he's listening.
Big shout out to Hustle, by the way.
That's a shot to Hustle right there. Didn't know how to spell my name. Known me for how long, and he didn't know how to spell Eric Cuts for the win. I'm still a little offended. I'm still
that
sad
clip
about
you
it,
put
but,
out was outstanding just because you were like, what?
Pure gold.
Hustle said that, and then he moved on. And you're sitting there, you're like, no. What did you just say? It completely.
I had to like process it, I was sitting there for a minute like, what just happened?
That was a great scene. Great to have you here tonight, Erica. As Brap has already mentioned, I will say his return to CrossFire. The great Tim Dog is back on the show. He does RDX. He did BGST with us back in the day. I got to be honest with you, Tim, it is outstanding to have you back on the show, buddy. How are you this evening?
Good. Happy to be here. It's a really good time of year. Usually we're really gearing up. It's a little different this year. Usually I'm probably almost in LA for E3.
Yeah.
But it's good to, to be with the panel and talk about video games. Because this is just the way it's going to be this year. But we're slowly, surely getting back to normal. And that's a good thing. And just really happy to be here. You do a great job. I'm a big fan of you.
Thank you, Tim.
And people on the podcast as well, the panel, all talented and just pretty cool to talk about video games on a Friday night.
Absolutely, Tim. And let me tell you something. We're going to go right to you first here because, it's been a while since we've had somebody that's had their ear to the ground in this particular subject. And I'm very interested. I'm all ears when it comes to this. So, of course, it's been mentioned. Larry Erb, a bunch of people have said that they're going to have the Xbox and Bethesda game showcase that's coming up, the E3 event that's going to be, is it June 13th, I believe, I want to say? And
13th,
right? And here's the thing. What is it that you're hearing? Because, of course, we're going to see games. We're going to have world premieres, new Game Pass titles announced. But, is there anything that we can specifically hear? And we've had the great Jeff Grubb on a few weeks back. And, he said basically, you're going to get a dose of Halo. And I think we're going to see a good chunk. I really do. Whether maybe I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong here. Are we going to see a lot of Starfield? And do you have any other kind of maybe exciting things that you've heard? Not binding you to them by no means, Tim. But anything you're hearing that we can kind of start to put our hands around and say, all right, what are we doing? What do we got?
Well, I can tell you this much. I think that for the last 3 weeks that they have went on a, as they called it, radio silence. They don't want to so I think they're going to have a bunch of announcements and they're gearing up for that. You're definitely going to have Halo gameplay. Mm-hmm. I'm hearing that it's good, but it's probably not going to be, it's probably not going to be what people want it to be, where it's just like everyone's like, oh my God, it's amazing. It's Halo. It'll probably be a better showing than the original showing, which was really bad. But I would temper expectations in seeing that I don't think it's gonna wow people to the point where they're like, oh my god. I do think Halo's gonna do well. I just think right now it's just in a tough position, especially when, you had Horizon with an amazing showing yesterday. It really looked good. You're gonna just you're gonna get Halo. Obviously, I think it'll show. I think Starfield's the big thing for them. I do think you're gonna get gameplay, and I do think you're gonna get a release date. I think it's going to be in 2022. As far as other things, there's a whole bunch of stuff up in the air. I do know that some of the stuff might have been cut from the show. Hellblade being one of them, and Avowed. That's what I heard. The back scenes that originally that they were going to be there, but because of shortages and logistics of everything, still the coronavirus, still kind of. People are still a little bit behind. I think that they've pushed that back. I would say, to be honest, I'm always the guy that's like 14-0. The big guy that hypes it like crazy, and then kind of falls on my face when it hits. I would say temper expectations. It's going to be a good show. There's going to be announcements. I think there'll be xCloud announcements. Smaller things like that. But for the games, the big games, Halo, Starfield. And I think that there might be an unannounced game there, and maybe an update on another. I would say 4 to 5 games, but I don't think that they're going to go all out. And one of the reasons is for the shortages. I heard that they were really upset. I'm sure Sony was too. That they heard that, and they're talking around Q1 or the later half of 2022, quarter one. So they're gonna have other shows and stuff like that. So they might save some stuff. But overall, I think it's gonna be. I'm told it's gonna be a fun show. But there's probably gonna be.
Tell me what you think, Tim. I almost think that this is almost reverse psychology, and this is I'm not making a prediction by no means. This is just a gut feeling. I still think you're gonna see something from Ninja Theory. I really do. I even if it's not the tons of gameplay. Right. Even if it's another CGI, it doesn't matter. I think they're going to show something.
Well, listen, this could be. Listen, they played this game with the Video Game Awards show. If you guys remember, Aaron Greenberg says we have nothing to announce. It's nothing, and then you go there and they're showing Perfect Dark.
Exactly.
So I do think that there is a little bit of that. I do think that they're throwing those things out. They want people. They don't want people overhyped, but I do think that they want to deliver on that. So there is a little bit of that too. So through the insiders or the people from what I'm hearing, the behind the scenes, there could be a little trickery at play too. They want to keep people.
Yeah, that's the thing, Tim. I think with all these now Avowed, that one there I would buy. If you say I'm buying in on what you said because that game. Listen, the studio just got started on that. All we saw was just a snippet. Even the snippet we saw, whether people say they like it or they don't, we really don't know what's going on there. But I think Starfield will be something. Ninja Theory, it's Hellblade too, right? So, I mean, we know that they've got something in the works. It doesn't matter what it is. Now, does the team want to take the time and effort at this point to stop what they're doing in development and make an E3 show? We all know that takes a long time to put together. That's the question. But I think they can do it. And I'm wondering if Microsoft's going to ask them, hey, pretty please, we need some stuff on the stage, and we've got to put our best foot forward here. I just don't think they're going to come out with just Halo, Starfield, and a Forza showing. I think we're going to see something else.
Yeah, I think that's safe to say. Yeah, I think it's safe to say there's a couple of games. I think Jez is reported on IO Interactive AAA game that's going to be exclusive. There's also a game from Avalanche Studio that supposedly could be there. I do think that they're going to have some big Game Pass announcements. I mean, if they get the Battlefield 6 rumored day one thing, that would be a really big hit. But I don't know if it's too early for that. Even if that is even true, I kind of, I would always, even though like people say it's going to happen, I would always I don't think anybody really knows a lot.
Right.
And I could tell you this much. I think Bethesda has definitely had an effect on Microsoft in the way that, listen, Bethesda was always good at keeping their mouth shut and not, and then showing like Fallout 5,
right,
or Fallout 4, when nobody expected it,
right.
So I think that they got a lot of people in there now that are like to the Microsoft people, that have always been there. They're like, shut up, don't overhype, don't go on Twitter and say your minds are going to blow up. Don't have Phil say anything that's going to be written on a paper with the other statements that he's made in the past that kind of haven't come to fruition.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think that there is definitely a play there that, they're like, shut up. The radio silence is definitely something that they've done in the past, but never this quiet, like never this. I mean, they shut it down basically in May, and that means nothing new. So I think that in a way it's a lot of good. I definitely think that Peter Hines, or they say Uncle Pete, has having a big influence on Microsoft, and some of it is just to stop shooting yourself in the foot, or stop making things harder than they have to be. Keep your mouth shut and put on a good show. And Bethesda has always in the past put on a good show, so it's going to be very interesting to see. I heard there was a lot of politics with that too. Originally, they were going to go Xbox shows.
Yeah, it was supposed to be separate, right?
Yeah, and then I think that Microsoft kind of like maybe pushed their way and said, no, we can't do this. So I heard there was a lot of politics involved with that. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out, because Bethesda has always been very good with marketing and, with shows just in general. So they're going to be a part of it, and they're going to be supposedly a big part of it. So it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, now I'm going to open it up to the panel. I mean, guys, you hear what Tim's saying, and I'll be honest with you. I think that what Tim's saying is what we've heard kind of murmurings, if you will, on Twitter. And I got to tell you, I do think they're going to have something else to show besides what they've talked about or what we expect. But at the same time, do you think like what Tim was? That's an interesting point you brought up. And the politics aside, I think Microsoft was like, listen, here's the deal. We don't have a tremendous amount yet. You guys have games. You guys are working on things. You guys have a lot of studios. You have a lot of people. We need your help. You know what I mean? Like, you got to come out there and we got to do this as a united front. But you do have to remember that the ZeniMax deal purposefully went down with, I don't know, they were calling it Volt, having a different, so they're not really under Xbox Game Studios, technically. Am I right on that, or is that something that I read?
Yeah, if you notice, they say Xbox and Bethesda. So, yeah, you're definitely, that is true. There's definitely something, they kind of wanted to keep Bethesda as separate as it could be, so they could run as separately as they could be, so that they could keep them in their own identity. A lot of times when the takeovers happen, there's redundancies. Like, if in actuality, like, if they took over Bethesda, they could like let go of somebody like somebody in marketing. That's a redundant job, but that's why they try to keep it separate, so they didn't have to deal with any of that and just keep it running as is. But you're right. Yeah, there's definitely something there. That's the way the wording of the show is you'll see Xbox and Bethesda showcase.
Yeah. Now, what do you guys think on the panel? Are you guys hearing what Tim's saying, and you're like, well, that's new news to you, or is that something that you guys have already kind of? I know. Go ahead, Eric.
Let me jump in,
please.
No, it makes a lot of sense. As far as the whole politics thing, I don't know about all that, but it makes sense for Microsoft to lean on Bethesda because they might just not have a lot to show. If these other games aren't ready, if it's just kind of focus on Halo and not much else as far as Microsoft Studios go, they gotta put Bethesda in the front seat and get it going. But I think it's a good idea to temper our expectations. I know Tim's kind of saying that we should, because it's better to go in like that and be pleasantly surprised than have like your expectations super high and expect amazing things and then be let down. So that's how I'm approaching it. I usually approach it that way when it comes to Xbox, just because they've had some bad shows in the past. So and it just feels like some of these games just aren't ready yet. But it would be nice to see a couple of these games that they have up their sleeves, just to see how far along they are. Maybe some kind of update. Maybe even if it's just a CGI trailer, just to say, hey, this thing still exists. And Tim, just to hype people up.
I agree, Eric, and I think Tim and Crap will remember from back in the day. I always say, not a CGI, but at this point, because the projects are so far out for Microsoft, at this point, I would settle for a CGI, because you know what a CGI does give you? It does give you an inclination on what the game is about. Because that was the one thing that I said, and I don't know if you guys remember from last week. I was saying it last week when Lord Cognito was on, And I said, the one thing that I kind of get a little bit, I wouldn't use the word frustrated, but I scratch my head, is everybody goes, Mooch, you got to calm down and understand that all these games are coming. But listen, we've been gamers for a long time. I don't care if you want to go back to the Nintendo days, and if you're listening and you're older and you go back to the Coleco days, okay? I don't care how far back you want to go.
Sorry.
Why not? Exactly. That's my point, Brad. My whole thing is that, just because we hear Avowed is coming out, and just because we hear, Starfield's coming out, like, we don't know that they're going to be good games. Like, they are games, but we don't know if they're going to be good games. And that's what maybe a CGI or something on stage or some sort of presentation, it would just give a warm and fuzzy to the audience to say, okay, not only do they have the games coming, but I saw something and I like what I saw. Not just a name and it's on the way, right? Because I liked Fallout 76. By the way, it was only me and Jez that liked it. And shout out to Sully. That was about it. There was like 3, and no one else was playing it. No one really liked it. So just because, but if you heard Fallout 76 was coming back in the day, you would have been like, Mooch, Fallout 76 is on the way. Calm down. It's going to be great. But was it great? Not really. I liked it, but apparently not many others did. That's what I'm saying here. So it's like, it's one of those situations where that's where people say, well, Sony has a leg up. Sony's leg up in this case is you talk about like Horizon Forbidden West, right? You talk about God of War Ragnarok. Okay. You talk about a possible, it's not in the works. We already went through that whole crisis, but Days Gone 2 or whatever. You already have a game with a proven franchise where you have an audience that already likes those types of games. So it's easier for Sony to say, well, we have these games coming. Well, we haven't seen Ragnarok. Well, are you really worried about it? I mean, are you really worried about it? You're probably not that worried about it. Same thing was Forbidden West until yesterday. We didn't see anything about it. We didn't know. But were you concerned? Not really. But when you say Avowed or you say other games that are coming down the pipe like Starfield, etc., we don't know what those games are. They could be outstanding. They could be 5-star blockbusters. They could also end up being a Fallout 76. That's my only point there. So show something versus nothing. That's the only thing. So that's where when people say temper, I say, listen, you don't have to show me gameplay. Go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, I was going to say, I get the, the Fallout 76 thing, but, and I get the Sony comparison.
It's just an example. Just an example.
Well, but Sony hasn't always hit from a first.
No, they haven't.
Like,
not every time.
The Order 1886, and I think with Bethesda, like you have Arcane Studios and you have Machine Games.
Yes.
And there could be that game from Arcane Austin that maybe is revealed at E3. But I do think this. I think Bethesda is probably, at least in the short term, probably where Microsoft's going to get a lot of attention or probably talk a lot about, upcoming games from those studios, because those studios have been working on games, previous to the acquisition, right? Whereas some of the newer studios that Microsoft's acquired, yes, they've been working on games, but there's some newer projects in the mix. So I think that that we'll probably see more stuff from Bethesda, and Bethesda may have more of a blowout, if you will, than Microsoft or Xbox Studios at this year's E3. But if I'm a betting man, though, I do think that Bethesda is probably where it's going to be at early on for Microsoft, and specifically for Game Pass. Like, that's going to be kind of their bread and butter right now, like leveraging the games that are in development from Arcane, from Machine Games,
right?
Starfield, and I do think we're gonna have a Starfield blowout. We'll finally get to see what Starfield is. And I get it, like, where people are like, well, we don't know what Starfield is. Maybe it's a hit or a miss. I'm leaning more of this is probably going to be a hit. Obviously, I know Fallout 76 had its issues, but the body of work from Bethesda in general has been pretty solid outside of Fallout 76. So I'm not as maybe apprehensive of Starfield per se.
Yeah.
Just given the track record from Bethesda, and to Tip's point about the politics, I could totally see that, Tim, because one of the things I know is that when Robert Altman, before he passed away, he wanted to sell ZeniMax to a company that wasn't going to change his culture, and I can tell you that ZeniMax is really big on internal culture. They're big, as I understand, they operate as a startup, but also as a big company. I don't know if that makes sense, but they do. Meaning that they really like pride themselves on being a family oriented environment, a company that encourages their internal employees to provide feedback and input, and so I could see that where, like, Altman's like, hey, you know what, I'm not going to sell you guys to a Google or an Amazon, and they were definitely, Google and Amazon were definitely kind of in the prow and kind of trying to acquire them. But Microsoft was the best fit for them, because Microsoft was like, look, we're not going we are not going to change the internal culture of the company. You guys are going to basically operate as you have, and we're not going to have anything to do to change the culture. Yeah, there can be some duplication of internal positions, things like that, but for the most part, like Pete Hines, Todd Howard, the rest of the staff, they're going to operate as they always have. And that was kind of one of the reasons why Altman was like, you know what, let's do the deal with Microsoft at the end of the day. So to Tim's point, I could totally see kind of the politic, if you will, and Bethesda being like, oh, you know what, we've always done our own thing, and we're always going to do our own thing. And Microsoft being like, well, wait a minute, let's rein that in a little bit to kind of be inclusive with the Xbox, because at the end of the day, like Bethesda is Xbox right now, even though it's a separate, like I think company or LLC, whatever they did. It's still part of the Xbox brand. So I think it's important for Microsoft to leverage that more than anything else.
I got a few super chats here, and then I want to hear Nick and Crap's point on this. Shout out to Great Sir X-Man. He says, shots. He's doing the shot song. Great to have Sir X-Man here. He says, I need some mayo. Crap, can you help a brother out? We'll see if Crap will bring that. Mayo. He's been out of mayo for a couple of years now. I'm going to say this wrong. I always say this. The melodic punk. I hope I said that right. I think Erica, was that correct?
You got it.
Yes, thank you.
Right?
Yes. By the way, the Melodic Punk has been doing some outstanding work on Twitter. Guys, go follow him over there. He says, Horizon peeped Zelda's test paper. I love, okay. So, well, yeah, kind of. There's a little bit of Zelda out there. A little Zelda I saw yesterday. Shout out to Melodic Punk. Appreciate that. Smokes901 with a great super chat. He says, super chat works. And Tim and Eric are here. Crossfire. Pew, pew, pew. He goes, come on, guys. We're going to have the best E3 ever, and Phil's going to be excited about the games they're not going to show. Shout out to Smokes, who's already doing a prediction right there. Danell Brown, he says, just showing love. Hey, look, it's the albino rhino. He goes, hi, and I have a question. When did we start saying games are being held back by old consoles? We're going to get into that. We're going to get into absolutely crap. Narift, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Narift, he says, CGI, another Xbox event with no gameplay showed outside of Halo. It's not good enough. We still don't know what a next-gen game looks like on the Series X. There is a point to be made there. And Danell Brown is back. He said, I never heard it till we seen Halo. So shout out to Danell. And Danell's also a newest Mooch Maniac family member. Thank you for joining the family, buddy. I truly appreciate that. You guys are hearing what's going on in the super chat here. I mean, and, you know, Nick, Crap, you guys haven't gotten a chance to speak yet. I think that you're hearing this from gamers. I know that we can sit there and say, oh, one's on one side of the coin or one's on the other. But that's why I made my comment after Tim gave a bit of a synopsis on what's coming forward on the E3 event, is at this point, they want to see something. You know, we have Series X's in our homes, and, you know, we want to see that the utilization of the power of this box. We want to see what's going on. And if we can't actually play the game, at least show us something that our eyes can kind of, you know, get thirsty about, something we want, you know what I mean? Something we crave. So, you know, Nick or Crap, what do you guys think?
I think, unfortunately, Microsoft is more about Game Pass than giving console gamers something that makes their mouths drop. So, you know, like, I think their advertisement is pretty clear. Microsoft Bethesda, you see Halo, you see a Starfield thing. They're going to lean heavily on that, probably one open, one to close. I expect a Forza announcement. And, you know, they also have, I mean, it's only an hour and a half. There's still probably the Bethesda part. They're going to show off some more Ghostwire Tokyo. You know, that's coming out this year on PS5. Show off some more Deathloop, right? I mean, that's coming out this year on PS5. So they've got some stuff, you know, a big Starfield blowout.
Crap, you think they're going to show Ghostwire Tokyo and Deathloop on an Xbox briefing?
No way.
It's a Bethesda showcase. Why wouldn't they?
They're not showing that.
You don't think they're going to show Deathloop? What else are they going to show?
I don't think they would show that.
Well, Crap makes a good counterpoint. What would Bethesda show?
Well, I mean, go ahead, Brad.
Go ahead, Tim. No, go ahead, Tim, man. Go ahead.
No, that's just not going to happen for obvious reasons. The Xbox gamers have to wait a year for both of those titles.
Right.
And those titles are also off.
Those are the closest things coming out from Bethesda, though, so I don't understand.
Well, I mean, listen, they could have saved Indiana Jones. I mean, I don't understand why they would just throw out Indiana Jones in February and not save it for E3. I don't understand things like that. But
did you read the document? It looks like they only started that a month ago, or in March or whatever.
I'm saying they could have announced that though
at
E3. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I just
maybe they didn't have enough time to CGI up something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, they could have just announced that announcement the way it was, even just as a small teaser. But you know, I mean, that's the difference. You know, Xbox. I know we like to say it doesn't have a lot of games, but they do have a lot of, they were at the game show and they announced Perfect Dark out of nowhere when we weren't supposed to get anything either. But as far as your point of those two games, I guarantee you will not be.
You buy me a Coke if they are.
I will buy you a Coke.
I gotta agree with Tim here. It doesn't make sense to have those shows. Those games are not specific to the Xbox platform, so why show them?
I'm just saying. Well, it's a
they could show those games at they could show those games at the like the PlayStation.
They could.
Event,
they could.
Whatever that
I'm just saying. For me, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that they're gonna show those games a little bit.
It's interesting, crap, because I do see your point. You're saying, well, listen, Bethesda's sharing a stage.
Really of that, but yeah, it's like Bethesda's up there. You got Microsoft up there. You have these 2 Bethesda games that are about to come out. You got an E3. I mean, I'm sure they still want to sell their games. Right? I mean, just something tells me that that's something that Phil would be 100% okay with.
I still lean on the fact that I don't think they'd be there just because I think just the bad press alone that the conference would get.
Oh, that would be hard.
It would bury it.
There's no bad press anymore for Xbox movies.
Oh, that's true. That is correct. That is correct. I do stand corrected.
That would be mocked bad.
Are you guys saying that because it's also available on PlayStation? Like that would just be like a bad.
It's on PlayStation first and for a year exclusive. Yeah.
Oh, got you.
Yeah, that's the reason.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Are those games on PC too? Probably.
I mean, it's the master race. They get what they
get. I could see it going to PC after the first year. Absolutely.
But you know what? I just think that I think that they'll play it safe. Like if you look at, I was looking around at the people that usually are in the know. Jez, like somebody asked him, will we see something graphically as impressive as Horizon? And he says he doubts it. When you look at what people are like, hey, what are we going to see from Xbox that's going to really blow us away? The number one answer I get is Forza Horizon 5, which I think that's cool. But I think people are looking for that big new thing that they want to see. And I think they're going to have to wait because I was watching I watched Jeff Grubb's thing or whatever, and he said, and I hate to say it, wait till next year for the big stuff. That's what he said. He flat out said it. He's gotta wait.
Yeah, crap. He because I even asked him the question in DM. He's like, yeah, pump the brakes. He told me that. And I'm like, and I believe him. Like,
not to interrupt, but that's what was pushed out to all the whatever you want to call them insiders about a month ago. And at that point, I think something happened between April and May. I don't know if something fell through because I think that some people were pissed off and whether that was accounted to the shortages, but all that talk that you're hearing was all at the same time. That all just flew on to that. So I do think something was planned and they had to pump the brakes and now they're throwing all this. They're definitely backfeeding the channels. Hey, keep your,
keep this.
And that's the way. That's what I get. So I've also heard things like Halo's not gonna. It's not gonna hit the point that people want, and I kind of believe that that's probably true.
Yeah.
I think Halo's.
Tim. Let me ask you something. Do you think that it's all she wrote for Bonnie Ross after this one launches? Do you think there's leadership changes there? 6+ years.
I think. Listen, if you were talking about today, and at this point, she could have definitely been fired last year, if you want to be honest, or if you want to be real about it. And that's not me saying that. That's people that people that I've talked to on privately. There are people that are not happy with that, and how could you be? You look at it, but you got to also say, even if it does, say it has a lukewarm showing, it says okay, better, but we're not, it's definitely not going to be like what you had a day ago. You're not going to get that type of like graphic take back.
It's not that type of game though.
Exactly, it's not that type of game, but you have people who just hear the name. But this is what's going to be the telltale sign. How it does Metacritic, if it does well. If it does bad, it's going to be a problem. And also selling wise, their forecasts are very high for Halo. They think it's going to sell a ton. I do think it's going to sell a ton, but you definitely got to look. If they get a Metacritic of 78 and everyone's just like, oh, this series is just not the way it was, and the sales are really slowing down, or they weren't what they expected. Yeah, I definitely think there has to be change. and I'm talking about that whole studio.
Yeah.
I mean, that studio is 700 people right now. I mean, people don't realize it is huge, that studio. And
the thing is, Tim, it's like here's the problem that they face, right? So they launch this game that has a free to play multiplayer and a ever growing like games as a service kind of single player. Like, so they have to have some kind of continuity there still. I don't know what they're gonna do, but I hope that it's a really good game. I'm not expecting it to be.
You'll know in the first week if it's if it's hit its point, then I think that they'll move on forward with the plan of 10 years or whatever that they have sectioned out. If it doesn't, I definitely think that there could be some movement there. I don't think I mean, listen, if you just look at it overall and you judge any business, coronavirus aside, that was a horrible thing too, but this has now been 7 years of development, and they have a studio if they just keep hiring.
Well, here's a question:
huge.
Do you guys think that we're going to see the Halo free to play multiplayer? Is that all coming out in one big bang, or is this going to be maybe that'll come 6 months later or 3 months later? Is this all going to be one big release when it does come out? Is that how Microsoft is going to pitch it?
I think it has to be, because if you release it in parts, they're going to review it in parts.
Well, the only reason I say that, that's an outstanding point, and you're 100% accurate on that. But if you look at like Call of Duty, the Call of Duty Warzone came out months after, I believe, Modern Warfare did. I don't think it came out day and date.
Is that really part of Modern Warfare? I mean, I don't.
No, it's not. And that's what I'm wondering. Does Halo multiplayer or whatever they're going to have? And listen, there was people were saying this. Tim, is there any rationale to this? I still think, even though a lot of people at 343 said no way in hell, I still think Halo has a battle royale up their sleeve.
What I've heard about that is that actually it's something pretty cool. Like it's not a battle royale. It's more like a Warzone type. Not like a Warzone.
No, but
is it like it's like Big Team Battle?
Big Team Battle, like their
big
version.
Team Battle where
good point.
You could
a big Battlefield.
Right. Well, like where you can spawn squads, and you can, a lot of vehicles and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
From what I heard on that part is very cool. But it's to your point, they're gonna have a dual release, and honestly, it's just gonna be very interesting to see. I hope we see the Halo multiplayer. We should at E3. But I'm hearing that segment is like 8 to 10 minutes. I don't know. That's some of this stuff too. And I have news for you too. Microsoft could be playing a game through the back channels too with the influencers and people that they kind of trickle information to, for the fact that you heard Starfield was going to be ready by almost everyone in 2021,
right?
And and then Schreier comes and he basically, he talked to somebody it sounds like he talked to somebody at Bethesda, and they were like, no way. You know what I mean? So
right.
you can never go into these shows expecting, knowing what's going to happen. They're also kind of fluid too. They could have a late announcement come in. There's certain things that they can change the day before. So certain stuff they can't, but my overall take is that like I said, temper expectations, and there'll be more throughout the year. And like Jeffrey Grubb said to somebody, pump the brakes. Yeah, that was, like I said, pushed out about a month ago, and it was disappointing when I heard it, but I was like hoping that it would just, but if anything, it's gotten even like worse. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I feel like it's kind of crazy to hear that, like, temper your expectations, like, for Halo. Like, when you really think about it, you take that in, like, damn.
Right.
Really? Because Halo is like Halo.
Yeah.
Well, it goes to, and Erica, it goes to a kind of what Crap was saying,
crazy.
and he asked him, he's like, is there going to be repercussions here? Because I mean, I've been saying it on the show for a long time. There's been, and I think Microsoft is making the right strides. It's slowly but surely, but there's a leadership change that needs to happen throughout the organization, and there's just a problem there. You, like Tim said, 700 employees. We're seeing games coming out from studios that are well under 200 employees that are putting out Game of the Year nominations, right? I mean. And I'm not even naming names. It doesn't matter. You guys pick your favorite studio that has 200, sometimes 100 people, and they're putting out. to have 700, don't get me wrong, too. Let's also be honest, though. It is harder to run a company with 700 people. So, but there's more staff, there's more management there, too, to help. So that's the one thing I think when it comes down to it. And I just want to read this one super chat, and then Brap, you and Eric, I'll give you guys the mic back. New Alpha says, I just want to say that I understand, and the Xbox community should understand this. And he says, especially crap. He says, Xbox realized in 2016, 2017 that they needed studios. If you know how investment economy works, you know that things start slow. You know, Alpha, don't get me wrong. I understand where you're coming from, and I think everybody on the panel has been well-versed. Now we've been doing the podcast thing for a long time, and no matter which side of the coin you're on, I completely see where you're coming from. But when you stop and look at other teams that are still putting out third-party, some of Sony's first-party, other teams are able to get these games out in shorter amounts of time. The question you say is, these teams that Microsoft has invested in, what have they been doing? Like, it's been a very long time. That's the question. It's a question. See, it's nothing in jest. Go ahead.
Like how I feel about it is this. Microsoft invested and has planned and R&D'd and released 3 new game consoles since 2017. Mm-hmm. Those take as long, or if not longer, to do than making a game. So I don't understand why they put all the eggs in the Halo basket. There's a lot of IP laying around out there. They could have easily gone up to Crytek. Crytek's in the shitter. Got another Rise done. Got a Sunset 2 done. That could have been years ago. An Alan Wake 2. You know, like these are Quantum Break 2. These are things that they could have done at any point, and for whatever reason, chose not to. And I remember saying, did they just give up making games for a few year period? And when you look at it, Forza Motorsport used to be a biannual release, and now they've been 4 years doing nothing, and their game is only in the early production stages. State of Decay 2 came out in 2018, and they're in pre-production of State of Decay 3. Mm-hmm. So, you know, like that's 3.5 years ago, and they're only in pre-production of the next game. So my personal question is this, and I always compare it to Kevin Feige of Marvel, right? You got this guy, the Mind, right? And he's like, okay, we're going to connect this movie to this movie, and this plot to this plot, and this plot, and this is what's going on over here, and this is what's going on over here. At Xbox, you got them going, we let everybody do their own beautiful thing. La-di-da. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like there's nobody with their, you know, with their foot on the necks a little bit, trying to get these people riled up. Like, damn, let's get some games out. Like, to me, when I keep hearing, okay, like, you know how heartbreaking it is? We knew about Fable in 2018, and we haven't seen gameplay. And apparently that game is still years away. Okay? Yeah. Like, Perfect Dark. That was a playable. You can look it up. Phil said he played what they were playing, what they were making. It was a playable state. Well, yeah. And now supposedly that's still years away.
He changed his name. Drew Murray, he's in that photo with him, and he's saying, we let Phil play.
My daughter played it. Yeah. He's like,
she loves it. 2 games, though. They could be working on multiple projects.
It could be. It could be. But I'm just saying, it does seem like nobody's bringing up that there could be some kind of overseeing leadership problem, right? Look, Hellblade 2 announced in 2019. We're getting tech demos for clouds now. Like, no gameplay, tech demos for clouds. Like, that should be
they were hurt by Corona because most of their game,
they're in England.
That's also mocap, and all the mocap was stopped. But you know,
it's the same thing with Fable. I get like Fable just hired a lead writer this year, and Hellblade 2 just got their game director this year. So it's like I would love to just ask somebody like, what the hell is going on with your studios, and why does it seem like you can't get anything out the door? Like, you'll get Psychonauts 2, you know, and I think that's cool because I like the first game. But again, that's not exclusive. It's a Game Pass thing, which I think is cool, and that's probably where I'll play it. But like, man, like I want something to show off this new console. Like, Tim, I bought 2 world's most powerful consoles in 2.5 year time period, and they really have given me like 2 to 3 AAAs in that entire time. Like, I'm asking to show me something. Give me something that I can showcase a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like a little something.
Maybe Starfield's that game.
Maybe. Listen, I love Skyrim. You know, I'm hit or miss with some of their games, but I'm looking forward to Deathloop. So hopefully, I'm hoping Starfield's the shit. Like, take advantage of it's a Series X exclusive, right? It's down on the last gen shit.
No, so we don't know. Right. We don't know.
It should take full advantage of it.
I mean, Jez says it's cross-gen. But I don't know. I've heard different things about that.
Well, I hope it's the next gen only. Like at some point, you got to cut it off.
That goes for both. I think we
Yeah.
both want to see. I mean, listen, there's a lot to be said, man. I think that's part of the later of the show that cross-gen games can still look amazing. You look at Horizon and even
Absolutely.
like Resident Evil 8. I mean, I just finished that. It's unbelievable.
Right.
Say something real quick when you're done, Tim. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, so just like overall, I agree with what you're saying. I just think that I mean, there's going to come a time where the floodgates open too.
Oh, dude, I think in 2 to 3 years, Xbox is going to be like a de facto fucking place to play. And I've said that, but the thing is, man, I said that a couple years ago. I was like, 2023 is going to be a banging year for Xbox, and people said I was fear-mongering and shit. And I was like, well, listen, you can look at what these studios are doing. They're like, look at them like a gun. They shot their shot, most of them, or they hadn't yet by the time Microsoft bought them, and then they did, and they were multiplats, and it takes time to reload. I get that point, but my point was always, they're a $1 trillion company. They got some money. Why not go to Capcom and get another get a what the hell games that they used to do? Dead Rising. Why not get another Dead Rising game or get a Alan Wake game or a Quantum Break 2?
Any of those. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I just don't understand why. Like in the meantime, why not get it? And I did like the fact that they got the baseball game and then Outriders in Game Pass day and date. And I think they need to do more of that. If they don't have any big exclusives like coming, you know what I mean? Like I get Halo's probably going to come this year and maybe Forza, but like I feel like what's going to be the next point? I would like to get some gameplay and maybe a year attached to something. It doesn't have to be a date, but maybe a year attached to a couple of games. You know what I mean? At least give us that kind of going forward. You know what I'm saying? It's like, look, I knew God of War probably wasn't going to make this year, but at least we had kind of an expectation that maybe it was closer to being done than people would have thought, because there's no way people would have thought 3 years in that game would be done. 4 years maybe, but every single God of War is released in March, and I actually think that game will release in March of next year.
It's a good guess.
It's like, give me a year. If Hellblade 2 is coming out next year, say Hellblade, 2022 or you know what I'm saying, like some Fable 2023 or just give me something.
Yeah, because you know what, the clock is ticking, and to be honest with you, we could sit here and you can make fun and point fingers, say 2023 is far away. But if you're doing an E3 show in the middle of 2021, 2021 is already gone, right? We have to kind of realize that, right? Yes, the fall games are practically announced by now. We know what's coming, especially today with Far Cry and everything else and Dying Light 2. We saw those things coming. We'll get into what our opinions are on those games later. But, I mean, you can definitely say that you have a game slated for 2023. It doesn't sound so far-fetched as it did back in 2020, I mean,
or if you got a feeling that something's going to get pushed into 2023, just put 2022 on there or late 2022, and then people will be much more forgiving.
There's never been a time where gamers have been more forgiving than now. Do you remember, and Tim, you remember this back when we used to all talk years and years ago, when delays were like the biggest no-nos, the biggest no way, we're not standing for this. Now everybody has been saying this for such a long time, and of course with the pandemic it only pads it. We say, hey, you know what? I'd rather you took your time and made a better game than give us a game we'd regret right now. So people have been never as forgiving as they are right now. So absolutely, I kind of agree with Crap. Say end of 2022, and if you got to push it to spring of 2023, no, you're not even going to get a slap on the wrist for that anymore. I mean, and Eric, I know you wanted to say something too as well.
Go ahead.
Well, to piggyback that, do you think maybe Microsoft is just kind of shy about that now with what happened with Halo and them showing the game and delays? Yeah. I guess it could go either way. You're right, people are kind of forgiving right now, but does that apply to Xbox? I don't know. They might rip it apart. You know what I mean? It could.
I agree.
They might be shy away from that, and that could go into E3 as well. Like maybe they aren't going to show specific games because they are too far away. Like that's where my mind goes. But no, I wanted earlier, like 5 years ago, I wanted to comment on what Crap was saying about the game list that you were saying, like Alan Wake, Quantum Break, all these games that didn't really get sequels and could have been, fillers in a way. Because you think about Sony and PlayStation and like what they get credit for, that there's hardly any like big gaps, right? Like there's always games coming out. Even if it's a smaller title, there's still something coming out, right? And Xbox could have easily have done that. But yeah, maybe it's just they put their eggs in all these certain baskets and it doesn't really spread the love to these smaller titles. If you look at
Control, 505 only paid $9 million to publish that. You know what I mean? Like something broke down there between Remedy and Microsoft at that point. Like Remedy had been wanting to make Alan Wake 2. I had heard that Phil wasn't a big Alan Wake fan, but like that was one of my favorite games. I bought that instead of Red Dead originally. So like I liked that game, and I just thought it was odd and unique, and had really good atmosphere and stuff like that. It didn't rely on gore. It really relied on tense atmosphere and what the hell's going on. So I really liked it. And same thing with you'll never find a bigger Sunset Overdrive supporter, and you'll never find you know what I mean? I love that game. I thought they should have went and I would have done whatever it took, make Titanfall exclusive again, right? Like that first game, I spent hundreds of hours in that game on my Xbox One.
Yeah.
It was so good. And it was like, I didn't care about resolution. I didn't care about any of that shit, man. I was having a blast in this. It felt like a next gen game. It was so fucking fast, and you know what I mean. Like I just loved it, and and then that stuff's kind of just died off, and it just really kind of bums me out. I would love to see them surprise everybody with something, but there's IPs out there that they could pick up. I mean, if Nintendo could get a Marvel game or whatever, and Sony can, and Microsoft can, or get a Star Wars game, which I know something like that was rumored and then they debunked it. But there's got to be something out there that you could surprise people with, and I think get people really excited and talking. And I know people get tired of hearing me say that, but it's like, and they'll start listing a bunch of stuff. Stalker 2, like honestly, man, no offense to that or the Medium, but people want that big AAA banger.
I think that's that's it, crap.
You know what I mean?
I see all the banter going back and forth on Twitter, and I get it. Don't get me wrong. I think it's great. I think it's healthy to do the banter back and forth. I just think myself personally, when it comes to Mooch, Stalker 2's coming out, and it's funny because Tim, you said you just got through Resident Evil 8, right? I'm actually, because of Returnal and a couple other games, and actually Biomutant taking up a bit of my time as well right now.
I see the gameplay on there. I got that.
Dude, it's a great. It's a good game. I wouldn't say it's great. Yeah. It's a good game.
It's good.
It's good.
Okay.
It's not great. But
listen,
but like cool. Stalker 2 probably wouldn't eat up a lot of my afternoon. I don't.
And that game's not going to melt your face off either, right? Like that's not.
I'm not expecting it to. No.
Yeah, and that's not a showpiece. So we're talking about Erica mentioned about Halo, right? Like Halo, temper your expectations with Halo, and I think Tim mentioned it's not going to be a game that maybe visually wows you on the Series X, but Halo, as an example, it's crazy because Halo was the showpiece for Xbox for years, and Halo on the OG Xbox. By the way, I was an Xbox Live beta tester.
Oh, beta tester
that in there.
Don't say. Bro.
Yes, I was.
Halo 2 anniversary, Halo 5 after the Xbox One X update. They look great.
Yeah,
I mean, go play that opening scene. Despite the game not being great overall, the campaign, go play that opening scene of Halo 5 where they jump out, they're in the snow. It's great. It's you're like, holy shit, and then it really kind of bogs down after that because I want to point this out again though, because Microsoft hyped it up as something that it wasn't. Right, like it's Master Chief versus this, and does Master Chief perhaps die? And hunt the truth, and that was badass. I love that marketing. And then it was a little bitch fight between the two for about 25 seconds, and you're like, what the hell? You know what I mean? And they let you be Master Chief for a total of what was it, a couple levels, and couple of the levels are just walking and talking. That's not Halo to me. So it was that's the part where they faltered. I thought the multiplayer that they did was good. If they could put it together, because I always said this, Halo 4 had my favorite campaign and Halo 5 had my favorite multiplayer. Yeah. Just put it together, right? Put it together.
The thing that's crazy though is that Halo's not going to be a showpiece, and Halo literally put Xbox on the map. Like Halo, you knew if you were getting a new Halo that it was going to have the best graphics. It was going to be amazing. It was going to melt your face off. Mm-hmm. And I know we're talking about our impressions of Horizon Forbidden West. Look, as good as the Xbox Series X is as a console, it still hasn't had that game that says, holy shit, wow, look at this.
Right.
It still hasn't. And Sony's 6 months into it, and they have 2 games that have done that already. Actually, 3, if you think about the Demon Souls remake, which I think is amazing. They have a couple games 6-7 months into the generation where you're like, holy shit, look at these games. This is that's the stance I think a lot of people, when they actually take a breather, you kind of step back and you look at the playing field. That's where a lot of people are. I want to ask Nick, I know that you've been doing a lot of articles and a lot of pieces recently, and you're really getting back into it. What's your take on not just the digestion of what you're hearing right here on the panel, but what your sentiments and your thoughts are as we approach this June 13th date?
I just have a lot of different tastes than a lot of people, and I just kind of have come to accept that.
That's what I love about you, though. That's what I want to hear.
Like the thing is like the big AAA banger titles that everyone's always arguing about are the games I typically can take it or leave it. Like to me, like things like Stalker 2 is super interesting to me because I grew up playing the original on PC. So like Stalker 2 is like something really interesting to me personally. But I also understand that when you're trying to appeal to a wider audience, things like stunning graphical showcases and stuff, that stuff's very important. And let me put it this way. I think that Microsoft has learned a lot in terms of managing expectations. And I think that's a lot better than it used to be because like you'd have like, you know, back in like 2016, 2017, you'd have like Aaron coming out and being like, this is going to be the best E3 conference we've ever done every time. And like that wasn't good at setting expectations because everyone has a different idea of what great means to them, right?
That's right.
We're all going to have different expectations of what would make a good Xbox showcase, what would make a great Sony showcase, et cetera, et cetera. There's some things that you absolutely have to do, like Halo has to look good. I don't care if it's like amazing, groundbreaking or anything else. It has to look way better than it did. Period. End of story. That's important. Starfield has to look good. Bethesda's got a lot to learn from because they're trying to shake off Fallout 76. I believe they can do it. They're one of my favorite studios, and I've played and 100%ed and, you know, completed all their games. But they've got a lot. They've got a lot to prove too. So, you know, I'm not necessarily, you know, managing expectations because I think they could still have a good closeout to the year. Like if they do put Forza Horizon 5 and say Forza Horizon 5's next gen only, I think that would be phenomenal. So, you know, what can they do with the Xbox Series X? Forza Horizon 4 was something that made the Xbox One X look really good at the time. So something like that plus Halo Infinite, that's not a bad holiday. And then we start talking, you know, 2022. And I do kind of agree with the idea that I would love to see them put more dates on stuff, but there's a general consensus across the industry that nobody's putting dates on anything right now. Like, let's face it, nobody's putting dates on anything right now just because the unpredictability of what's going on. We have literally like 5 interviews with Jim Ryan saying Horizon Forbidden West is 2021, but they won't put 2021 on a trailer for the game. But you have your head, you know, your leader saying it's 2021.
Right.
So I think generally as a rule right now, the industry is avoiding dates because, you know, worldwide, we are in very different places in terms of the pandemic. Like I know in the States, you guys are doing phenomenal with vaccinations and everything else. Canada, we're way behind you guys. I know the UK is getting a bit better. So all these studios are working at a different pace due to, you know, pandemic and everything else. But the thing is we're drawing to and thankfully we're getting closer to a close on the pandemic. So now it's all right. Everyone's getting back to normal. We need to get going and we need to show off what we've got. Because the thing is I may enjoy my Xbox Series X. I may be happy with the improvements on games it got. But for the people that are like, I wish it did this, I never want to discredit those people because if that's what you want, then, you know, speak your mind on it. That's 100% okay.
Right.
Just because I'm happy doesn't mean you have to be happy. And I'm the same way with anything I play, honestly. You know, some things are going to make me happy that won't make crap happy, but there's going to be some things that, you know, vice versa. It's just how it goes, unfortunately. And
no, I like your spin on it. And, you know, it's true. You know, you sit there and I sit and I have this. Here's the problem, though, Nick, and it's not a problem. It's the way my mind thinks. I think E3, I think Bonanza, right? Big explosion. Like New Year's Eve, right? Like a New Year's Eve bash. When someone says there's a New Year's Eve bash, whether it be something that's on TV, right? They do something on TV. What do they have? The biggest bands, the biggest celebrities, the biggest this, Times Square, millions of people standing outside for over 24 hours, right?
Mooch,
go ahead.
What you're describing as being a PC gamer, by the way.
Oh, I don't think about that. No,
I just want to throw that in there.
PC Master Race Brap is here.
You gotta sneak it in.
But am
I wrong?
Well, no, I can see where you're coming from. But being a console guy,
higher frames.
It was funny. Somebody
DLSS 2.0.
Somebody actually said to me, Mooch, I thought you were a PC guy. I said, you must have just tuned in. That's the farthest, right? This is
Mooch. You are a PC guy.
He's got a PC, ironically.
I do have a PC, but I prefer gaming on console. And Brap, you know that, like right now, I'm playing. I play Warzone way too much, and I play a lot more now. Recently, I play on my Xbox Series X more than I play on the PC, and I started playing a ton on the PC. But the point of the matter is that like Nick brings up just an interesting topic there, or a caveat to this subject, and that is that I think Bonanza. Right. So even though Nick makes a great point, my dislike of an E3 show, because it didn't have fireworks and Bonanza and didn't have stars and didn't have the big blockbuster names. Nick's like, I feel bad for you, Mooch, but I genuinely enjoyed it. So I get that. I really do. But I think when you see the banter and the discussion that goes on between shows and Twitter and everything that goes on social media, it is that big blockbuster moment that we got one more thing. You know what I mean? That's the thing that really kind of ropes people into E3. So I think that's what we're kind of hoping for. And I'll tell you something. I'll go back. I'll do a full circle here real quick. Bring up this one point, and then I'll move on to our second topic. Is that I think Xbox is saying to influencers, guys, calm down, because they can, influencers can even take the ball and run with it and get people's expectations too high. I think Xbox still has something to show. I think they're going to have more than even we are predicting.
Sniper ever.
Yeah, I'm not. Well, thanks, Crap.
Jesus.
It's
Sorry.
What happened? Crap's always critiquing my gameplay. I wish
was watching your sniper gameplay.
I liked it better when our heads were just popping up. Listen,
I gotta see this.
My sniping hasn't been that great. I'm working on it. I swear to God, I do a little better in the RE8 footage coming up after this. But nonetheless,
snipe better on PC, Mooch.
I do actually. That is true.
That
is true. On PC, I do snipe better. Thank you, Brett, for that. I appreciate that caveat. But I got a couple super chats, and we'll go on to the next subject here. Gamer O'Malley, he says, and I'll comment on this. He says, Tim, stop selling hope. He's been selling hope since BGST. He says, we're tired of the wait. Xbox last new AAA was Quantum Break. Not quite, but he goes, he used to be about games.
That was
and now
your new single player AAA was Quantum Break.
Oh, was it? Was that the last single player?
Last new
IP Gamer O'Malley with
the
history lesson. I appreciate that. I did not know that. He said it used to be about games. Now you're calling men younger than you uncle. So listen, Gamer O'Malley, I think what Tim does all the time. Tim, tell me if I'm speaking for you the right way here. Is, you are basically the Xbox ambassador. I mean, everybody knows that. There's just no hiding it. And that's a great thing. But at the same time, listen, that's why I wanted to have you on the show. You come on the show, you said, listen, here's the good, here's the bad. It is what it is. I mean, Tim, don't let me speak for you. If you want to fill in, by all means, go ahead.
No, I think what you're saying is true. I definitely think I'm a big part of the community, but the community is wide and big. And, to what the guy's saying, I mean, I don't understand what the guy would want. I mean, we all know the situation that they're in. If I wasn't about games, I wouldn't have been the guy in 2017 when I knew Microsoft was totally cutting funding, that basically told Phil and told Aaron and basically told Phil mano a mano that if you do not game create, this community's out. I'm out. This is going to be, it's going to be over.
Right.
And I was the same guy that was pushing all that stuff. And, listen, it's they, as Crap pointed out, and we've talked about, they are in a situation where the games are definitely coming. The games that you talked about, they say that I care about. If they have 35 teams making games, it's just a matter of when they come out. Mm-hmm. And how they come out. I mean,
right.
I don't understand how you could say that they're not making games. And as far as the uncle thing, that's just what they call them. That's what they told me that they call them. So I said, I guess that's what they call them. So maybe that's just because people at Microsoft and people in the know actually talk to me. Because I've grown that rapport, and I haven't been a hater on the outside writing comments on money chats or whatever, throwing out a comment like that. But the bottom line is that you have a lot to look forward to, but they do have problems. There's no way around it. You could say that there's problems with Booty and the handling 15 studios. It's probably too much for one guy.
Agreed.
They have to fix some certain stuff. And while they do a lot of things good, and they definitely do a lot of things that need to be fixed and screwed.
Yeah.
But I think that's just part of any company. And I just think that everyone here and everyone in the Twitter community in that bubble, we're just super passionate, super like, involved with this, that I sometimes think that, there's that faction and then there's just the real world that just is waiting for Halo to come out. You know what I mean? And
no, I agree.
when it hits, it comes. So that's just the way.
No,
the way I feel.
I think you answered it quite well, Tim. No, absolutely. The great Sir X-Man says Phil could surprise us. Crimson Sky or Mecha Cell. Sir X-Man, you've been dying on that hill so long. I don't think those are coming back, but I could be wrong. I don't know. I have no idea. I hope for your sake it does.
You know how great a Mecha Assault would be? It'd be amazing.
Well, it would be amazing, but again, is that one of those nostalgia's a hell of a drug type of situations, Brad? I mean, we're talking about a certain.
You drop it in Game Pass, it's going to get engagement. People are going to.
I certainly would think so. I agree with you there.
I would play it. I would play it on PC though, but I would.
Oh, jeez, there it is again. Killer Dude 35 says the question everybody should be asking here is, what has Microsoft done to earn our patience? Why do they deserve it? That's an interesting question from Killer Dude.
Good question. Yeah.
That's
what I'm saying with the whole, could they be forgiven? I don't know.
Yeah, people can only come up with that answer themselves. I think I'm a little bit harder on it than most, but if the games are good, then of course I'm gonna play them, and I'll be like, hey man, they finally came through with that. It's just like for me, like I said, a lot of people will go back and find oh, look, you really bashed PlayStation in 2015. Well, no shit. They didn't have any games either then. You know what I'm saying? It's like 2018, I started to see I played God of War, Detroit, and Spider-Man back to back to back. That's a hard fucking thing to match on Xbox side. They came out with PUBG and fucking State of Decay 2. Okay? Like, it's not even close. So, and then the next year they came out with like Crackdown 3 or whatever. So I started noticing there's like this huge difference that I never really noticed before because I had my head really far up Phil Spencer's ass. Right? Like I just didn't notice it. I'm like, I didn't know. I'm like, man, I'm really loving these Xbox games. But I, you know what I'm saying? Because I didn't really know any better. I spent 99% of my time on Xbox. I'd play the 3 or 4 exclusives on PlayStation, but it wasn't like I was like really sitting down and getting myself ready to enjoy that stuff. It wasn't until God of War where I was just like, holy shit. I played that game in like straight through over a weekend. It was just like the most amazing experience that I've had this generation so far. And I was just like, holy shit.
Right.
That game was amazing.
Yeah, and then it was like that E3, there was nothing really special. I thought it was okay. And then I was like, well, 2019, and the big announcement was Bleeding Edge, and I was like, who's keeping it on? Like, who wants to play a MOBA on a console? Like, that's not a big deal. Like, get those people working on Hellblade and that,
Right,
like,
get Hellblade.
I never understood
all hands on deck,
Yeah, like I never understood it. Like that's the thing that I don't understand. It's like Matt Booty sends me Don Matrick vibes. Like you hear him a couple times around E3, right? And he does a couple interviews or whatever. But like I get the like the whole hands-on thing. I think we can all go back to the story where Yoshida went out there to Sony Santa Monica and was like, "This God of War build sucks. It's not fun." And they totally had to redo it, right? Like, you got to have somebody that has the balls and they can go out there and do that because, like, I feel like. And I didn't want it to fail, but Bleeding Edge just looked like the most unfun fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. And I said, why waste time and talent on this shit? Get to work on something, get those 30 people on Hellblade 2 or whatever the hell else they're doing.
Right.
And, and now that's what they did anyway, a year later. They all went to go work on Hellblade 2.
Well, that was the plan all along, from what I heard, that they wanted to get better at combat and combat mechanics, and that's basically was their passion project. It was like 15 people, but they were always slated to work on Hellblade 2. I was heard strictly that was the plan all along. It's just kind of like what they want to do with Gears 6. They want to have a AA title that they want to learn the system and they want to learn Unreal Engine 5, and then they're going to have those same people work on Gears 6, which is supposedly going to be the tell-all version of the best of Unreal Engine 5. So I do think that there is criticism to be had here, and you definitely can look at Booty and say you get some vibes. I agree with you there.
He's quiet, Tim. That's all I'm saying. Like you never hear from the guy. He doesn't say shit.
Yeah. But I do think, though, what you do have here is that you have a ton of developers that are working. But they, like I said, it's not like they had 4 studios. when we were talking about 2017, when maybe we were all like, and I knew something was up because I had heard, and that's when I had certain conversations, but they only had 4 studios. Now they have 23. So
I have no doubt that the games are going to come.
There's two coins of this. And aside from that, they acquired a publisher that everyone was saying the world would change if somebody acquired Bethesda, and they also doubled down and made those games exclusive. So there was a lot. Like the guy says, well, what does Xbox have to give me to make me a fan or whatever? There are things that you could point to that they're not just sitting on their hands saying, hey, screw you. They're giving you Game Pass games day and date. Like the show, Outriders, they have plans, I'm sure, for more. One of them is rumored as Battlefield. So it's like, it comes down to the person, but do they deserve to be criticized? I think at this point, yes. I think that if they had, my takeaways is if they had an E3 like they originally planned, and like they had Hellblade and Avowed there, and they actually showed games off, that would be a much better way for them to make the case. They're not making the case right now, I think, with downplaying E3 and showing Starfield and Halo. And
you think they're aware of the memes? Like there's that one floating around with Phil with his quotes every single year about the biggest and best E3.
Oh, 100%. I do also.
Oh yeah, they're definitely with that. Yeah.
Like I said, the Bethesda also is like probably involved too. Like I said, I heard Pete's a very influential person, and he's.
That's an interesting point, Tim, that you said that, because I think maybe Pete takes a bigger leadership role in this than we know.
Pete,
yeah.
Hey, Mooch, Pete's got a lot of pull, and apparently, if they acquire additional studios, that stuff's going to roll up under Bethesda, and Pete's going to run that.
Well, that doesn't surprise me in the least. When Tim said it, I see. That's the one thing that's been a bit foggy, and that's what's great about having Tim here. Maybe should not have said
that, by the way.
No, that's all right. No, well, listen, whether it is or it isn't, it holds water. That's my point. Like, Pete is a very responsible individual, very successful person in the gaming business. So that doesn't surprise me in the least. The thing that majority of people don't know, and I think Tim knows a little bit more about it. Maybe Brap, you know a little bit more about it. Maybe even Crap does. I don't. Is what does this merger, because it's more of a merger than it does seem like an acquired, because Bethesda really does have their own branch that hangs off of Xbox, and that was definitely something that was in the contract, definitely part of the negotiations. But do we know what that truly means? Absolutely not. So I don't pretend to know. I'm just saying that. But the more that comes out, that makes a lot of sense.
Go ahead,
Nick.
Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
I think it would be stupid, and I mean this in well, no, I don't mean it in the nicest possible way. I think it'd be stupid if you get leadership like Todd Howard and Pete Hines and everything else, and you just kind of relegate them to the background.
Absolutely.
You have all these. If you have all these studios that you've got Matt Booty trying to oversee like 23 studios, stuff's gonna fall through the cracks that shouldn't have. Like, I'm sorry that the reveal of Halo and everything else, like, who looked at that and went, "Yep. Okay." And it's sometimes it's just down to you need more people and you need to have the talent base there. I'll use my job, for example. I'm doing a job where we've upscaled our business by upwards of like 258%. And I wasn't able to do my job the way I'd been doing it before because I needed help to do the whole description of my job. So they needed to give me more people to get that job completed. And I think if you take Matt Booty and then you give him some help and you say, well, we're going to let Pete Hines come in and kind of help you with some of this, or some of the other talent at Bethesda or ZeniMax. I think that's a really smart management thing that they need to tap into, because we talk about, Enrique talked a lot about ZeniMax's culture. And I think Xbox needs to learn to balance that culture.
Yes.
Because Bethesda was a culture of, we're great to our employees. We treat everybody like human beings, but we get stuff out the door. And I think Xbox is just trying to find that balance. Once again, it's growing pains and everything else, and everyone can criticize the growing pains and everything else to whatever degree they want. But I think that if Xbox doesn't use the pre-existing leadership that exists in ZeniMax to help the overall Xbox Game Studios culture, that's a mistake.
No,
That's a great point.
Well said. Well said. The great Eric Jackson, a voice of reason, Brap. You know him very well. He says, "What's up, Crossfire family? This panel, though, great. It absolutely is, Eric. I'm enjoying every moment of it. I'm enjoying being a part of the panel. I'm also enjoying listening to everybody in their points." The great Sir X-Man's back. He says, "Last thing, Elder Scrolls 6 better have a new engine." I don't know. I would actually hand that question off to Brap. He might know a little bit more about that. I don't know if that would be something that. Because I don't know, what is the deal even with Starfield? Starfield doesn't, it has a tweaked engine, right? Not necessarily a brand new.
It's gonna have a tweak to the creation engine, right, which is the engine of like Fallout. But I just want to comment on what Tim was saying about. Obviously, I think Tim's spot on. Like the criticisms are warranted too, but I also do think there is a silver lining here, and I more so see the silver lining with Bethesda and what Todd Howard said about Game Pass, like. I think like we talked about Fallout 76 earlier.
Yeah.
I think Fallout 76 was an attempt to, I don't want to say save ZeniMax, but to pivot to what makes money nowadays, right?
I was just going to say, they're money maker. They wanted a money maker that was, just like we're watching like Wars. I can't even tell you. I'm embarrassed to say Warzone, how many skins I've bought in Warzone. Like I love the game.
But that's not what I think Bethesda does. And you look at like the Dishonored franchise, which is a phenomenal franchise. It didn't sell well, right? So they had to kind of pivot and do something that's high engagement, that's going to keep people engaged. They can get microtransactions. And then when Todd Howard in that conference or that interview with Phil Spencer and Aaron Greenberg and Pete Hines, they're all, at ZeniMax headquarters.
Yep.
And Todd's like, I look at Game Pass as kind of this conduit, this ability for us to create these games and be creative without worrying about if this game's going to sell or if it's going to, if it's going to get lost in the shuffle of other releases. There's something to be said for Game Pass as it relates to engagement and visibility, right?
Yes.
And absolutely. I think Todd Howard, when he said that, I'm like, this is the Bethesda we love. That they're gonna, and they have some really talented studios, like outside of Bethesda studios and Arcane. There's Machine Games, there's id. And with Doom, and they're hiring a lot in those studios, by the way. Like they're hiring a lot. There's a lot of investment internally right now that's happening at ZeniMax that people don't know about. Like with even with Bethesda.net, they're hiring a lot to support that, which is kind of interesting because I'm like Bethesda.net, it's like the storefront for Bethesda PC. Like, so how is that going to like coincide with Microsoft,
right?
In the Microsoft store, but like ZeniMax Online, they're creating a new studio, right? Arcane's hiring a lot. id's hiring a lot. Machine Games is hiring a lot. And so there's a lot of growth that's happening right now, and growth to me equals projects and games. So there's going to be a lot of stuff. I think the silver lining for Microsoft in the short term, again, I said this earlier, is going to be the ZeniMax acquisition. I think that's where you're going to see the biggest return from Microsoft is that acquisition in the short term. And then I think you'll see the other studios kind of sprinkle in. But look, the criticisms are all warranted, but I definitely think there's a silver lining here. I really do, and I think
agree.
That's why
I agree.
I think Mooch, we talked about kind of the hype in the media about Game Pass. I think that's why we're seeing some of that hype for the media and kind of that conversation.
That's a good point. I also want to say that when you look at how a company is run, I think Bethesda was run better than Xbox Studios. You know what I mean? So I think it's probably a good reason why they're merging the E3, because if there's going to be any surprises or any kind of big things, I think I would guess that Bethesda would be the one to do that, because they have, just my opinion, they have better leadership and better, just like what you guys are saying, like everybody knows Pete and those guys always do it, and they always have some kind of surprise or something, you know what I mean, something up their sleeve.
Shows.
Yeah, I could imagine that they've got, if there's going to be a surprise, it's probably going to be from Bethesda, and it seems like those studios have the best kind of, they get shit done quick because they always have, a game that just comes out of the blue and then releases. So maybe they have something. That'd be fucking amazing if they did.
That's what I'm saying. I'm wondering if they got something up their sleeve. Crap, I'm telling you, I think there's still something.
Some people are even saying, "Hey, maybe Wolfenstein or
absolutely
or something along those lines." Well, why the hell not? That would be great.
Absolutely, they bought them. Let's see that. Let's get the fruits of their nature. Let's get that stuff out there. Like, at least show it. Yeah. It doesn't matter if it's coming out this year or it's coming out next year. I'll say real quick shout out to Noof Nuke and Boom Boom Kaboom. I see so many people here. Shout out to the Ash and Luca, Salty's here, Salty's Gaming Podcast. I've seen Supernova Gaming. I'm seeing a bunch of people here. I want to say shout out to everybody. Jez is here. Outstanding to everybody. Just stop by the show. I really appreciate that.
All the homies.
Right? Amazing. Everybody's coming out today. I really appreciate it. Outstanding. Please do, guys, we stopping by, hit that like button. Glinser says, Xbox turns 20 in November. Look what PlayStation did in their first 20 years. Yikes. Glinser definitely making a point there. I think that, Nintendo and PlayStation's history is just unbelievable when you look at what they've done over the course of these years. And what Xbox has been able to accomplish, and listen, you're looking at how hard it is. Look at how hard it is. Google and Amazon, trillion-dollar companies that can't get their feet wet. They can't even get their foot in the pool. So to see that Xbox did get as far as they did in the 20 years, that's commendable in itself. Remarkable Nights, a Mooch Mania family member. It's great to have a family member also in the Super Chat. He says, Brap, what does PC Master Race mean? PlayStation Console Master Race. I agree with you, all jokes aside. Great show, Mooch. Keep up the great work. Appreciate that, Remarkable Nights. Thank you so much. So, you know what I mean? Shout out to Porter Rock. Porter Rock even stopped by. It's great to have Porter Rock here as well. I do want to get into State of Play, guys. We kind of talked about the Xbox Bethesda thing for even longer than I thought we would. And I'm going to kind of combine all these things because time is running short. I want to talk about Horizon Forbidden West. And I'm going to start with, believe it or not, I'm going to Erica because, Erica, you've got the controversial seat in this one, right? So you're taking it away from Mooch, which is fine, by the way. I appreciate that.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
What was your pros, your cons, maybe even some worries that you saw? And how did it kind of happen where you did your show and you got a little bit of deflection back from the audience?
Listen, these PlayStation guys, listen, I like PlayStation. I have a PS5, obviously. I can't wait to play like all these games on PlayStation. But
yes,
if I mention any kind of like little criticism or nitpick or, just something to talk about, man, they really get defensive over Horizon specifically. I feel like Horizon, for whatever reason, and I have my theories as to why, but I feel like for some reason that game, like it triggers them, So
yeah.
So I was live, I did a reaction or whatever, and I saw a lot of great things. I gave a lot of good compliments, of course. The graphics look beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. But I knew that going in. I mean, the first game was beautiful. I knew this engine is going to be, they're going to be on it. They're going to make this game gorgeous. I just had a couple issues with like the combat because the first game with, behind all the beauty, behind all the graphics, I felt the first game dragged a little bit. I felt the human combat could be better. And thankfully, I'm seeing that it's looking better as far as the human combat. But with the elephant in particular, there was something about it that didn't really like wow me about it. And I was trying to figure it out, like why? Because maybe my standards are just kind of high because I'm expecting this game to be so much better.
Because you play on PC.
Maybe. I don't know. But I'm usually not
PC
that...
games ever had glitches before, I'm sure.
Not at all.
or bad controls.
Not at all, crap. Doesn't happen.
Doesn't exist.
I'm all over the place with this, but like, there was something about it that looked a little janky to me. And I think honestly, it could be because they're adding these like animations, right? You have like these animations that Aloy is doing with her spear. She's doing all these twirls and spins, and then the enemy's doing some kind of animation in death and like going after her and stuff. So I feel like there's these breaks between the combat, which kind of makes it not so fluid. And me, if anyone knows me and knows my content, I'm very much about combat and like fluidity and it just being like a nonstop, like octane, like adrenaline rush. Like that's what I'm kind of looking for. So I felt like that was a little awkward. Like it was just like these breaks in between. It was kind of janky. And I, expressed that live and I said, what's going on here? The enemy, he kind of hit like an invisible wall. I'm like, what is that about? So I was just kind of nitpicking and kind of joking around. And I was like, I'm going to get dislikes for this. And sure enough, I did. I actually had a dude come at me saying that I've never seen an elephant ever, which was really funny. So I've just been getting a kick out of like the interaction, but from people watching it or whatever. But
so what's interesting though, Erica, what you say too about your thoughts on it is like I'm gonna go back and play it because I never really got through it all. Like the first one for me wasn't one of my favorites either from last generation. I've said that a number of times. But one of the things that you're saying
story
is
got boring at a point.
Yeah,
it did. It really
did.
dragged. That was my issue with it too.
So that's why when you say there's a bit of that drab in between, I'm sitting there saying that's the way that this is written. That's the way that this game is. It's got those very, very intense moments, which you weren't impressed with. But then it also has these very, very long lull moments where you get into story and character, and also moving from point A to point B, could also take some time. So that's just the nature of that game. I don't know if I'm going to fall in love. I thought the game was stunning. I thought they did a great job with it. And like Tim had said, I was actually amazed at how great it looks for being a cross-gen game. Like, that to me was the most impressive thing that I took away from it. I said, wow. I said, if they had told me this was just PS5 alone, I might have bought it. You know what I mean? I might have bought into that. But the fact that it's PS4 and PS5, that is interesting. That speaks to Guerrilla. But what else? Anyone else on the panel really think? Erica made some good points. That's why I kind of want Erica to go first, because she really threw the volleyball.
Let me add a couple
go ahead.
things.
I apologize.
I see the chat freaking out already. I'm telling you.
Yeah, you got to be
man,
careful there,
this
Erica.
game,
Careful.
Listen, there are so many games I could list that are just better than Horizon. It is what it is. That's just how I feel.
What games? What games?
Better than Horizon? You want to list?
Not Gears.
No, I'm going to say Sony games. God of War, Bloodborne, Persona 5, Nier Automata. I mean, there's a huge list. I could come up with a big ass list. That's better.
My God. So Erica, I can't argue.
Horizon.
I can't. Look. You said Bloodborne. I can't argue. Bloodborne.
Listen. 2017.
Bloodborne's the GOAT.
Specifically when the first Horizon came out, and I got crap then too. When it came around, it came out the same time as Breath of the Wild. That was like the big versus. Everybody was, comparing those two. And I was over here enjoying Neo and thinking that's better than both of them. Persona 5 better than both. Cuphead better than both. Nier Automata better. Metroid better. 2017 was epic in terms of like the games that came out. But whenever somebody says Horizon was the best game that year, they're tripping. So I've always felt that way. Like, it's a good game.
It was a really good game, though.
It's a good game. It's not a bad game. Like, it's not like I'm
really
saying it's trash. It's a good game. But like, I just feel like I don't know what it is. Like, people trip on Horizon. Like, I don't know. They can't understand or just accept, like, not everybody goes crazy over Horizon. So because I didn't do that, and because I haven't been doing that, it's like, oh, this girl, she's a hater. She's this and that. Dude, I love so many franchises on PlayStation. Like, chill. It's not that serious.
Right.
You know what, Erica? I think for a lot of people, and I'm included, I'll throw myself in that list. I think for a lot of people, the reason why I think Horizon gets such a, like,
Ghost of Tsushima, also another one. Oh,
Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, I would say Ghost of Tsushima is better than Horizon. But I think a lot of people give Horizon the praise that it does is because it's from Guerrilla. And like we all know that Killzone was supposed to be the Halo killer when it first came out. And it wasn't. I think Killzone 2 might be the best Killzone game, and that was about it. And so when Guerrilla made this like 180 to Horizon, I think a lot of people get like wrapped in that, like, oh my God, like they made this amazing game, and it was a good game, but you're right. Like there's
drags, better, like, but it's a good game.
But you're right. Like Bloodborne is the GOAT. There's no arguing that. No one can ever argue that, by the way. I had to throw it in there. Yeah, when you said Bloodborne, I'm like, I can't argue that. And when you said Persona 5, oh my God, Persona 5 is amazing. So yeah, but I think a lot of that's, again, it goes back to the fact that it was a new IP from Guerrilla. Guerrilla had always been focused on Killzone, and this game is the best game that Guerrilla's ever done, in my opinion. So I think that's where you get a lot of that nostalgia or hype about Horizon, that it's just new IP from this company, from this developer, and it's the best game that they've ever made. In my opinion, it is. And I think a lot of people.
That's probably true. I do hear that a lot about Killzone. It's behind the graphics. It's just kind of bland, kind of boring, kind of thing.
It is. Yeah. Killzone 2 was the best. Yeah.
Definitely, we could say that's stunning within itself for them to go from that to Horizon. Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great feat. Like, I'm not taking away from that. Guerrilla does their thing, especially graphically, like a beautiful game.
Right.
And a lot of that combat was good. Like, there was things I liked, like the smoke bomb that she threw down, the dinosaur, whatever, like screaming at her and stunning her, and then she had to put the smoke. That was epic. That was cool. Like, there was a lot of things I did.
Melee combat's better.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's definitely they're adding to it. Like there's more to it now, which is great, and I can appreciate that. I'm a little more worried about the story side of it, but you know, if it's going to be this year, Brad, we don't know.
Oh, that's right. We don't know. I still think it will be.
I think it's going to be like late. I think it's going to be like September, October 2021 of this year.
Really, Games put out a thing saying it's still on track for this year. So
yeah, I still think it'll come out this year. I really do. Yeah.
I mean, it looked pretty good. There was a few things like the pickup animation on that one gun was a hitch, or something like that. But I mean, that shit, if it is coming out, you know, in 5 months from now, we don't know how old the build was or anything like that. So, you know, I think there's plenty of time for them to kind of finish things up and kind of get it out there. And it wasn't perfect because, like I said, the first one I got bored during some parts of it, and some of the voice acting was, I thought, a little suspect. But overall, I thought it was a really good. I actually liked the Frozen Wilds a little bit better than the main.
Yeah, a lot of people said that, the DLC.
Yeah. So that's why I have a lot of excitement for this, because the way that it does is, like, you know, you can also glide, you can go underwater. The melee thing is fixed, because I had a problem with the melee combat originally. Looks like they fixed that. So a lot of the stuff that was like a little bit, this could be their Uncharted 2, in my opinion. Like Uncharted 1 was good. Uncharted 2 was like the shit, like maybe one of the greatest games of all time.
Right.
I feel like this could be what they got the handle on what they want to do. And do that. So I'm not I think that it could be.
That's my saving grace.
That's what I'm hoping for.
That's my saving grace as well.
Crep brought up the gliding. That was actually something that was in the original, but got axed because of like the hardware or something like that. Like they couldn't do it.
Well, they said they wanted to do mounts too. Like I wonder if they'll do that. I doubt it, but I think that would be cool. I mean, you know, like that world kind of would be badass to see, be able to fly.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? Fly around a little bit. I think that would be amazing. And, you know, I thought, like, the game looks great. The underwater stuff was fantastic. So they varied the gameplay. They really showed little bits and pieces of different gameplay things. And, you know, I know a lot of people, like, kind of jumped on the frame rate thing, but there's not a PlayStation 5 first-party game that doesn't have an option for 60. So
yeah,
100% will have.
I didn't get that.
100%. They're going to have a 60 option.
Right.
This is also a cross-gen game, which means even better chance of that happening. I'm going to say 100%.
I agree.
100% chance it'll
probably be a lower resolution.
Like Miles Morales. Miles Morales, like they have three different things to pick on Miles Morales. The best one that I liked is the 1440p 60 with the ray tracing, right? Or the light ray tracing. Fucking game, it looks amazing. You know what I'm saying?
It's funny you say that. So I was playing Miles Morales, and right at the end, I turned it over to the 60 frames, and I didn't go back. I stayed on the 60 frames, even though it was a lower resolution.
Another good one.
It really was amazing.
Why would you go back? It's like playing PC, like higher frames, you know, like why would you? I mean,
well, you know, you say that, but there were other games that I had switched over to 60 frames, you know, both Xbox and PlayStation, and I sometimes went back to the resolution. Just sometimes it didn't look right. You know what I mean? And Tim, I do want to get your take on this, because I think a lot of people would be interested to hear. What was your take on the whole?
Hold on, real quick on that note. I think Forza Horizon 3 it might have been, or maybe it was 4, but one of them was 1080p 60 or 4K 30. I went with the 4K 30 because it already felt smoother, but it looked like a 360 game almost at the 1080p. So I did the 4K because I remember at that time I was like, I just got, you know, I spent this money on a 4K TV and the game doesn't look as good. So I went with 4K 30, and I think I did that with like Tomb Raider or something too. And I don't regret that, because the way that game was really kind of cinematic anyway.
Right.
So I like having the option, you know what I mean? Like you can have the option of what to do or whatever. I'll pick 60 on it just because, you know, I feel like that'll be more fluid or whatever. But, you know, some people I know for a fact will boot that bitch up on 30 and go for like balls out graphics or whatever. And I think that's fine. So like give people the option.
Give them the option.
Do what they want. Like, listen, when I play Mass Effect.
Like PC.
Yeah, like when I play Mass Effect Legendary, I'm playing that at 120. I mean, it doesn't look as crisp as the other one, but fuck, man, the 120 is so much smoother than the 60 on that. So
is it really? That's the one thing that I'm having. Like,
yes, it really is.
I'm noticing the 120 difference to a certain degree when I'm playing, like I say, Warzone. I have the Xbox Series X playing at 120, right, and I do feel it, but it's I don't. It's weird, man. It is odd, and if I say this, you guys let me know. Anyone, like when I play at 120 or 130 frames, whatever the PC can actually do, depending on the game, I feel on the computer, 140 on certain games, but when I play them on the PC, I do feel like the fluidity is a little bit more enhanced. Whereas going from 60 to 120 on the console, I don't always feel that same fluidity, that freedom, that movement speed. That I don't know, for some reason I do feel it on Warzone, but not on many games.
Where you have your settings, like you know what I'm saying?
Right,
like,
right. That's true.
Your movement settings and stuff like that. Like for me personally, the 60 felt good, and then when I put it over to 120, it just feels like there's no jumps, or like it just felt 100% just smoother. But also, like the TV that I have like supports all the VRR and shit like that, so it just feels like a super smooth fucking, like this is the best way to play Mass Effect that I've ever played Mass Effect, and it's just phenomenal. Like that's one of the things that like Microsoft did incredibly well. Was they put out a box that fucking that really just goes balls out on like the games that are backwards compatible. That's why I bought Mass Effect on Xbox, right? Like I knew that was going to happen. I also got Biomutant on Xbox because I knew that there was going to be a backwards compatibility situation, and that shit was going to probably have some kind of issue on PlayStation. It's not that PlayStation can't do it; it's that you have to fucking code that specifically for PlayStation. Is whatever the hiccup is in that. Hopefully Sony can get that fixed. But that's just the truth. Like I'm not going to buy it if it's not significantly better. Like that's a big frame jump, 60 to 120. So there was
it
like
is.
you know what I'm saying? Like I'm just saying, like literally, like now it's hard to play anything on the lesser frames, but literally everything on both, with the exception of the medium, is 60, at least 60 anyway, on both consoles. And starting, I think, in a couple days, which I got this game and I started it and it was great, but I didn't go back to it. Watch Dogs Legion is getting a 60 patch on both.
Yes,
so that'll be the last. That's the last like current gen release on PlayStation 5 that has 30. So there's no more current gen shit on there that's 30. Everything is at least has 60 options. So that's cool. And they announced today Far Cry 5 is going to be 4K 60 on both. So
that's
I think that's that's going to be really cool to kind of see that, and it's exciting to kind of focus. Like I'm excited for the technology that they're going to be using, the DLSS stuff, because I hate the whole arguments over the 4K stuff, and not just because I hate the arguments, but because I would rather have more ray tracing and more graphical shit at a lesser frame rate.
It's a waste of resources, crap.
Yeah, exactly. I would rather, like I said, Miles Morales 1440p with ray tracing, 60 frames, fucking chef kiss. I like that. I would rather the games be that than everybody trying to reach 4K. And you know what I'm saying? Like that's, to me anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Tim, real quick. I want to ask Erica a quick question regarding Horizon Zero Dawn. You talk about the elephant battle, right? Like kind of being underwhelming. Was it underwhelming because it was this big kind of boss battle, and you being a Souls fan?
I knew you were gonna
because I kind of felt like that. Like I was like, you know what?
It looked
big
so
boss,
damn easy.
Not Souls, right? Am I right?
That part, it was easy. I was like, I can do this.
Easy, like
crap.
I don't know. Look, it's me. It's just my opinion. It's me. I think maybe that could be part of it. Like the epicness. I'm looking for that epic. Like wow, that looks
boss,
crazy.
Like Souls, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
The music,
like the scope, and it has the scope there. Listen.
The phases.
You had the debris and stuff going on. Like it looked cool. She had, she did the gliding, right?
Yeah.
She did that, and it was kind of like cinematic right there. That was cool, like the surroundings.
But it wasn't like Souls, though.
But the boss, I'm not saying Souls, but like the boss itself.
Bloodborne.
It just looked easy. It looked, I don't know. It didn't really do it for me. Like I felt like it could have did a little more. Whatever that may be.
I know what you mean. The reason it didn't.
She means like Souls, Bloodborne.
But it didn't affect me in that way, just because that's the model of fighting. That's the style that they've created.
Yeah, it's different.
You know what I mean? It's just different. And I want to talk about a few other games, but I hear Tim, what was your take on Horizon Forbidden West? Is that something that you could see yourself picking up and playing? Did you enjoy the first one?
I didn't play the first one, to be honest. I still have to get around to it. But I honestly, when I first saw Horizon, I was very impressed. And I was expecting to be the same type of like breakthrough. I have to say, to be honest, I'm not going to lie and say it looked anything other than gorgeous, because it was gorgeous and looked good. I just kind of like felt like like with the elephant battle. I definitely felt that, like certain things that people have mentioned on the panel, just didn't wow me. But for what I said, for what with that being said, that's just my opinion. But overall, it looks like most people were seriously impressed with it, and I think that that's what Sony needed to do, and they accomplished it. So kudos to them, because they did basically what they needed to do, and they dropped a big game, and they got the response that they wanted. Like I said, I was some of the stuff on Twitter yesterday. I honestly was joking around with some of the stuff. I do think it's impressive that Gears always targeted 60 and they had 120 frames per second with that fidelity. But comparing that to Hive buses to that, it's not really fair. One's an open world. But just
it's all right, son of Rome, Tim. So people were I'm like, man, 2013, man, let it go.
I mean, just overall, I think it had a good showing. Probably will get a 60 frames per second performance mode, and I think that most of us on this panel were console gamers. Erica, not really, and they were always PC gamers. But now,
no. I was a console gamer for years. You've
been a PC though for the last couple of years, right?
I mean, it's both. It's both.
Right.
It's like a healthy, 50-50, I'd say.
The reason why I say that is because now we're saying the things that PC gamers say, like, oh, I can only play in 60 and I can't play in 30. And I have to say, I really was always a person that said I could care less. And I kind of, I could still play at 30 and I wouldn't complain. But I have to say, after playing Resident Evil 8, and I've played all those games at 30 frames per second, there is a real big difference sometimes with 60 frames per second. And
I think it's because that's what we had. You know what I mean? Look, we're console gamers, Tim. So I don't give a fuck about PC, to be honest with you. They could play, I'd say it's 1,000 frames, and it wouldn't matter to me. The fact that my consoles now can do 60 or 120 frames.
That's slender.
I'm all about that. You know what I mean? I am. I'm just I'm all down for that.
I can't believe you're playing 120. That was a big surprise.
Oh, I got the CX OLED, man. The fucking
nice.
Right before the consoles came out last year. Same. And and I was just like, if I'm gonna get these things, I gotta get it and experience it the way that I really can. So I also have a Series S in the living room, but the TV is not an HDMI 2.1, it's a 2.0. It does 120 hertz, but only 1440p. So it's really good for the S, if I want to Call of Duty or something, because it'll still fucking crank up 120 frames. But it's it's just, and if you guys haven't seen how small that console is, that thing is the size of the Xbox 360 HD DVD drive. It's incredibly small and compact. I fucking hung it on the wall behind the TV. You can't even see it. It's it's really cool. I know people expect me to hate on that console, right? But for the price and shit, and if you just want to kind of have that hooked up to your desk or living room to play some multiplayer, I think that it works. It has a hell of a purpose. You know what I mean? It does the job, and I can get 120 frames out too. So
that's right.
It does good. That's all I'm gonna say about it. It does good.
No, it does what they said it would do. Absolutely
packs a punch. Yeah. So
no,
for
I
a
do.
little tiny console, man.
Let me ask you guys a question. We only got so much time left. What do you guys think on the panel? What's the better? Well, we can talk about both of them, but the Far Cry 6 was revealed today, and Dying Light 2 was yesterday. I mean, you guys know I'm an absolute zombie freak, so if we can talk Dying Light 2, I'm very happy with it, but I've seen a lot of criticisms, guys. Dying Light 2, people are saying, great, love what we're seeing, glad to see the game actually came together since it was in hiatus for so long. But at the same time, people are saying that Dying Light 2 doesn't look like a graphical showpiece. What do you guys think? I mean, was Dying Light 2, and if you guys want to go ahead and pivot and get into Far Cry 6, by all means.
You're the big Dying Light guy, Mooch.
I loved it, man. I played Dying.
I remember you and Worry and a bunch of people playing Dying Light 1.
Shout out to Worrywart, by the way. Worrywart was supposed to join us tonight, and he just wrote me. He said he's going to try for next week. He just got in too late. But Worrywart, myself, Stinger, there's a few people actually out there we used to play over and over. I've got about 75 hours. I've got 75 hours into the first Dying Light. And I'll be honest with you, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Well, let's also keep in mind that I loved. Oh God, what was the predecessor to Dying Light on the 360 and the PS3?
Dead Island game.
Dead Island. Dead Island, right?
Dead Island.
So I played Dead Island 1 and 2, beat both of those to an oblivion, right? Exactly, crap. We got the remasters. And to be honest with you, I thought Dying Light was the glorious
gamer score.
Yeah, they gave like 8 gamer score.
Weird.
They messed everything up.
I hate that shit, man.
But I'm absolutely in love with Dying Light 2. Did you guys feel the same way I did, or is this? I could see this not being for everybody. I guess is what
I'm hyped, Mooch. I'm hyped.
I'm in. I'm all in. I'm all in.
It looks good.
I love the factions. I love the the different type of zombie classes.
Day and night cycles are amazing.
I just can't help but think that this is going to get pushed into early next year.
Probably.
I'm just saying.
I could see it. I could see that.
A December release date. Like all these people want to get their games out in November.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're like December, like, and then I think they'll hit us with the, we got to take a few more months to polish it and blah blah blah. And I think that it's going to come out in the first part of next year. I think that they.
You think so? I don't know if they can.
I think so.
This team just can't afford it.
I could see
I don't mean that financially. I mean reputation.
But December kind of seems like that fuzzy place where, like, yeah, if it releases end of the year, great. But if it doesn't, New Year, and people might be okay with it, right?
Right.
It's like, oh, it missed December. If it goes to January, February, at that point, whatever, right? So I'm kind of with crap with that, but I hope it doesn't get delayed because
the only games I can remember really that did the December, I remember Dead Rising 4, which wasn't great. You know what I mean?
Cyberpunk did December 10th last year.
Yeah, I mean, but look at that.
And that should have been delayed.
Well, here's my argument for Dying Light 2. Look, they lost their lead principal writer about a year ago because Chris Avlon can't keep it in his pants.
Right, that's right. Yeah,
that's a great point.
He was the narrative director, and Techland was very clear about the fact they scrapped everything he worked on.
Wow.
So
they have a very bad culture, by the way, I've heard.
European studios have some interesting cultural issues.
Well, I mean, they let naked people do the weather.
Yeah, but that's not the problem I have with their culture. That's fine to me. I can get behind the naked weather people for the most part. But the thing is like, they lost some writers. They've had some turnover issues. There's been a couple of reports of, workplace issues and everything else going on over there. I like what I see so far. It looks impressive so far. I like the fact that they're trying to put as much RPG into the game as they can. I love that, but I have an incredible hard time not getting cyberpunk vibes from this game just because of it being delayed, them not talking about it for a while, and then all of a sudden they slap a date on it and they're like, yeah, we're good to go. We've shown you this little bit. We're good to go for December. And I'm like, are you really though? Or is it your like, is this another cyberpunk situation where the developers are scrambling and your management's like, nope, we're good to go. Let's go. Fire all cannons. Because that's my only concern myself.
Well, you bring up, go ahead, please, Erica.
I was going to ask you, you think you'll ever get tired of zombie games?
No. And
you love them, right? Like that's your thing, right?
Jesus, as long as I know him, he's zombie fucking everything.
I'm saying right.
Here's my thing. It's funny. I asked the question,
Mooch.
And I didn't watch it last night, Brett, but I will be this evening. And I'll tell you right now, here's my whole thing. I asked the question back to Erica. Erica, what other, I wouldn't say antagonist, but what other creature or thing or sci-fi, however you want to like kind of reach this topic out, what else takes the place and does that good of a job? And I guess you could say like likings and things like that, but what else really would fill the spot of zombies and post-apocalyptic?
I feel like the post-apocalyptic stuff and the zombies is so interesting to people, and maybe you agree with this because you put yourself in those shoes of like, what would I do?
Yes.
Like you imagine this really happening, and
yes.
Because I do that too. I remember when I first was watching Walking Dead, like, how would I do this? Like, would I survive? Like, you know what I mean? What kind of survivor would I be? I think that's kind of like what gets people really interested in zombies. You think?
I think it's that, and I think it's also the post-apocalyptic world. I think post-apocalyptic world goes hand in hand with zombies, but then there's also that human element. When you say, what do you stop and think about? Like, I'm probably the only person left on Earth that watches The Walking Dead. That's fine. But like, I like that world. And if you, even if you watched Walking Dead the first 4 seasons and you're like, Mooch, I gave up on that so long ago, that's fine. My point being is that when you left season 3 of The Walking Dead, from 4 on, it's been about the human element. It's been about the zombies are almost like a background noise at this point. So, you know what I mean?
It's about the people at that point and territories and, you know, it's all
exactly.
that. Yeah.
And how everything's so cutthroat, right? If someone sees a backpack on you, they'll literally take you down to get what's in your backpack. And your backpack might only have books in it. You know, they don't even care. You know what I mean? So the point of the matter is that's how it just changes so much. Over time, you see like human nature just kind of degrade. But my whole thing is like, I think that when it comes down to video games, there's been some developers that have tried to experiment and go outside, right? They go outside of vampires. And it's vampires. I'm watching the stream. Pardon me. I apologize. Zombies. And I just don't like. I don't see any.
Vampires are good too.
Vampires are good, but are they though? Yeah. That I guess there goes my question. Are they in like likings and things like? Are those? Is that what's supposed to take over from the zombie in the zombie apocalypse world? I don't see people getting invested.
I feel like the reach can only go so far. But go ahead, bro.
And I feel like zombies are a little more realistic as compared to like werewolves and like vampires, right? You know, like we all grew up with like the Dracula, you know, and the werewolves or, you know, stuff like that. Like a zombie apocalypse thing, you think about like, you know, like potentially some kind of, you think about like Resident Evil, right? Some kind of virus that turns people into these things, right? Like that could be a real thing per se, right? Like, I think that identifies more with humans per se than like, realistic. You know, these, realistic. Exactly. Tim. Like, as opposed to these like creatures that exist in like fairy tale world. Right. And like what Erica said, like we all put ourselves in the shoes of how would I react? Because in an apocalyptic world, you know, it's going to bring out the best in humanity. It's going to bring out the worst in humanity. Right.
Absolutely.
So it's like, where do I fall in that, right? Where do I fall? And I hate to bring up the pandemic, but I think with the pandemic, we've seen that the best in humanity and the worst.
Dude, it was so weird because I mean, again, like being the Walking Dead fan that I am, and then all of a sudden the whole thing, we won't rehash it by no means, but like the whole pandemic thing happened. I'm like, oh my God, it's really happening. All right, who the hell's going to be Rick Grimes?
You kind of think
right? I was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
What's going on here?
You know what? You know what's crazy? That you say that, Mooch. Like I was hoarding toilet paper, canned goods, like it was the apocalypse, man. Last year, a year ago, and my wife and I were thinking about should we buy a gun? Like that's like,
note to self: if you're move close to Brap. He's gonna have every natural resource you will need in a pandemic again or anything.
Let me tell you something. And I said to her, I'm like, you know what? We need this, this, and this. We need alcohol. We need like bandages. We need scissors, a baseball bat, nails. And I'm like, I'm naming stuff off The Last of Us, right? And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I played video games. I'm prepared. You know, like
right.
It sounds crazy. Seriously, it sounds crazy, but it's like, that's what your mind goes. You know,
it does.
I'm telling you, if there was a zombie apocalypse, gamers would be ahead of the show.
Gamers,
everyone else.
Yeah, we've been training for this for 20, 30 years. Everybody's got it.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we'd be good.
I got a couple super chats here that are interesting before we have to go because they're pertaining to some of the folks in the chat here.
Please read them.
I have to. I know Eric already saw it. Detravia, which I'm probably saying it wrong, he says, Horizon was the only game I ever put on easy mode to prevent boredom. Once I lowered difficulty, the game was far more enjoyable. So there's maybe a little something that not everybody was thinking about that we can actually, maybe it'll change your gaming experience. Speaking of gaming, the great gaming forte, he says, preach queen, but Breath of the Wild was best. And he's definitely referring to Erica's critique of Horizon Forbidden West.
The 2017 list.
Yes. Godzealot, if I'm saying it right, Godzealot, he says, my boy Tim Dog in Crossfire, let's go. We got to get Tim on more often. The great WoolleyGamer, a Mooch Maniac family member, he says, much love to Mooch and the crew. Wooly, great to have you here. And I know it's so late over there in England. To have you here and awake and watching the show this late means a lot. Thank you so much. And here it is, Erica. I hope you have your seatbelt on. Vegger says, he says, so now we praise zombie AI, but diss the AI of the elephant in Horizon Forbidden West gameplay. Like, stop the damn capping. You just sound crazy mad, making crazy statements. Vegger sounds very upset at your comments, Erica.
That is the best super chat of the night.
Isn't it great?
Listen, Vedger, if you're mad, if you're gonna pay money to be mad, my PayPal is connected to my YouTube. So go ahead and hit that. Go ahead, hit that up.
Yeah, nobody tell him that Freakers and Days Gone are actually zombies too. Don't anyone tell him that.
Right. Thank you.
And they're not exactly zombies in The Last of Us either. They're infected or whatever the hell they are.
That's
Exactly.
right. Yeah, they are.
Freakers and all kinds of crazy crap.
Merc305, he says the best feature in Horizon Zero Dawn is uninstall. So apparently Merc's not a fan. Merc is not a fan.
He is not a fan. Nope.
So and it's funny though. I do want to bring up real quick, just because. A lot of criticism today on Far Cry 6. I saw a lot of people being positive, but I saw a lot of hate on it. And here's the thing with me personally, and I want to get your guys' take real quick. I did too. And the reason is this. People go, Mooch, how can you say you liked Far Cry 6? It looks like the others. So, yes and no. It looks like the others that I liked. And it didn't look like the others that... It looked like 2 and 3.
Yeah.
3, right? It gave me the 3 vibe when you're in the jungle and you're hunting, and it looks like you're going to be able to scavenge other animals and create and craft. And then there's a city element. And I got to be honest with you, and pardon me for not knowing the actor's name, but the gentleman that was in Breaking Bad, and he's now in The Boys, and he's in Mandalorian, Giancarlo something or another. I can't remember his name. He is probably one of I enjoy his role in his acting. It's unbelievable. So the role that he's playing in this seemingly is just outstanding. We didn't see enough of him today, to be honest with you. I didn't think we saw enough of him. But him being the antagonist in this is just, that's got me roped in as well. So I'm there for Far Cry 6. I wanted to get the panel's thought on this game.
Giancarlo Esposito, by the way.
Thank you. I knew it was Giancarlo, but I couldn't remember the rest of it. Thank you so much. But just an outstanding actor, and he's been acting for ages.
And he's the real deal, by the way.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean,
he really is.
What did you guys think about the game? I mean, is anybody else buying it besides me?
Day one collector.
Nick, you're there? Yeah, I bought the gold. I bought the gold edition. I didn't get the collector's edition.
And they better not hurt that dog. That's all I'm saying.
Exactly. Now, Tim, are you in on this? Were you sold or no?
Yeah, I'm sold on it. I think it looks pretty good. Just a comment on Dying Light 2.
No, please, Tim.
I actually was very hyped for it. I was surprised at some of the criticisms. One of the things I thought was interesting, it seems like they want you to play at night. And if you played the first one at night, it is scary.
Brutal.
So if they really are forcing players to play night, I think that's a real smart decision, because I have to say that playing that game at night is just real scary.
Well, not just that, but I hope if they're forcing it, Tim. The one thing that Tim says that makes a lot of sense for those of you that didn't play Dying Light. And guys, remind me again. The enemy at night was the
rewarding you, by the way.
Were they the volatiles?
Right.
What are they called?
But they're rewarding you for playing at night too. Like
that's fine. But Tim's right. You didn't have to always play at night in the first one. You could kind of like wait it out, or there was a couple. There might have been a mission or two you had to. But if there's a large portion of this at night, I hope that they've changed it a bit so that it's not quite as cumbersome, especially the beginning of the game. You know, I remember once I got OP, then the night was literally no big deal. But that was after playing the game for quite some time.
Right.
Yeah, no, I agree. Tim, your thoughts on Far Cry?
I like the way it looks. I love the dog thing. I don't, listen, I think I got a lot of criticisms. I think it's criticisms that you've always brought up in the past, but it's good to see that you're not even using them, like using a reskin of the old Far Cry 4 to 5 or whatever. I think Far Cry does a great job, and I'm excited for it. So for me, I'm all in on both those titles.
Yeah, a lot of times it's the same thing I was kind of saying to Erica with Horizon. Like, I completely respect Erica's opinions on it, but I think that I just think Horizon's not her. It's not her bag, and that's fine. By the way, we do these. We say this all the time, and a lot of people in the chat kind of get upset. They'll say, "Mooch, how can you not like this game?" And you sit there and you say, well, guys, a lot of games come out a year. We play as many as we can. Nobody likes all games, right? So they're not always in your wheelhouse. Myself, personally, I was always just waiting for Far Cry to get back to a story that roped me in. What we got with Voss back in Far Cry 3 roped me in. 4 and 5, just the antagonists, the evil folks in there, and the towns, and this. It didn't rope me in. I could care less. This one here, it's got my attention. And it's just, it looks like they are expanding it. The world looks much larger. Again, better acting. I think the game looks pretty damn good. A lot of people thought it looked like, the same thing we got from Far Cry 5. I thought it seems to stand out over Far Cry 5's capabilities thus far. So I don't know. Myself personally, I'm very excited for Far Cry 6. Nick says,
I like the setting on it.
Yes.
It's cool. Yeah. And then I don't know if anybody's a Breaking Bad fan, but Gustavo's in there.
Exactly.
So I'm like, shoot, that's cool. That's a good get.
You're talking about Giancarlo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We call, it's funny because we were watching for the longest time.
I call him
Mandalorian.
I call him Gus. But
we call him Il Polo. Right? Because that's what he was going by. Remember they kept on calling him that in Breaking Bad for a while? Didn't they call him Polo? Il Polo? Because he had the chicken place. That was what that was like. What was it?
El Pollo.
El Pollo.
It's El Pollo.
Okay. Polo, yeah. Polo. Sorry,
Polo would be Italian.
That's Italian. Sorry, same word.
Pollo is
Italian.
Spanish.
My apologies. Yeah, I changed it. I did change it. I happen
it's all
to.
semantics, Mooch.
Well, crap knows that, right? There's Wolfenstein and Wolfenstein. I just changed things. You guys should. Good thing I never sing songs. I change all kinds of lyrics. It's great. It's just what I do. It's my fault. Guys,
it's like the Kn1ght thing. It's apparently it's not Kn1ght, it's Kn1ght.
It's Kn1ght. Yes.
Is it Kn1ght?
It is.
But I'm so used to saying Kn1ght. It's like
it's Kn1ght.
Yeah. So it's Kn1ght to me anyway.
WoolleyGamer says Ratchet or Horizon. I mean, I'm
as far as what?
I'm probably going to play both, Wooly. I would probably say that listen, Ratchet and Clank for me is going to be a treat for the eyes. But much like Biomutant, and we didn't really get into, I wanted to talk about a Biomutant a week later because I've got about 10 hours into the game. And I've even gotten farther than the gameplay I put here. As much as I like it, it's like same thing with Ratchet and Clank. I feel like they're fun games, but they're just kind of, I don't take them past the fun element. That's me. I think I'll enjoy Horizon Forbidden West much, much, much more than Ratchet, but I'll probably be playing both of them to answer your question, if that's where you're going with that. I mean, do you guys see where I'm coming from with that? I mean, is everybody on the panel getting Ratchet and Clank, or that's maybe that's not everybody's bag?
I'm still trying to get a PS5.
Oh, we got to get Tim a PS5. Absolutely. You know what?
Hard to get.
Tim, if you're not following Gaming Forte, you should follow him. He might be able to get you one.
Really? I'm friends with Gaming. I'll hit him up. I definitely want to pick it up.
You say Forte?
Yeah, Forte.
Yeah.
Gaming Forte. Yeah.
I was just gonna say real quick, the things that Ratchet is doing in that game is just amazing. The whole rift and going through rifts, and it's just from one
the technology is going to be
universe to another. I mean, it's so much going on, and that's only PS5, right? Not PS4.
That is only PS5.
Yeah, it's only PS5. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that has to do with it, but it's looking crazy. Gameplay wise, just all the particles, everything going on, it's wild.
We didn't get a chance to get into that.
What about the DualSense controller with that game?
Yeah,
that's the thing. I would have liked to ask Tim a little bit about that, but if he hasn't gotten his PS5 yet, then that's the one thing that on a couple of the multi-plats, and it's funny because there's been a few. I generally go like same thing with Biomutant, right? Biomutant has a better overall view. I got it for I got a review code, but I got it for Xbox. But there are times where I'm making a decision now because I do like the feel and I do like the haptic feedback of the triggers from the DualSense. It is in essence in certain games. Use one for example, Returnal, and I know that was specifically built for that. But the way Returnal plays with that controller, man, I tell you, if you took that controller and you just gave me a DualShock 4 and I played that game, I feel like that game would then it would lose points for me. The controller is part of that experience. So I like what they're doing there. So that would be an interesting factor. But with third party, you never really know what they're going to do to utilize the features.
That's why you hope Xbox does an Elite, or something, or does something, because then third party will catch on.
That's if they're both doing it, they'll both do exactly, Tim. Exactly.
That's a great point, Tim.
I think could definitely happen.
That needs to happen. I mean, I've always bought. I use my Elite 2 for anything on Xbox, and of course, even PC gaming. I use my Elite 2. It's a great controller. I like the weight of it, and I do like the DualSense a little bit more than just the standard Xbox controller these days. Just because you know what's funny, Timmy, you'll notice when you get it, there's a good weight to the DualSense, and I think that's why I like the Elite. I like the weight to it. I don't even use a lot of the paddles and stuff like that. I just like you know what I mean? I like the feel and the weight of it. It's just a great controller. But yeah, listen, I promised the Crap Gamer and I promised even Tim Dog. I said 9 o'clock, and I lied. I lied right to your face, Tim.
No, you didn't.
So I apologize. We're after the 9 o'clock mark here in New York. There's New York Knicks basketball tonight. I believe it's Game 3 in Atlanta. I know a lot of people are excited about that.
They're getting crushed. Are they?
Wait, they're in the playoffs?
Yeah.
Playoffs?
Yeah.
Yes,
Playoffs.
absolutely.
But
Tim,
you're a Giants fan too, right?
New York Giants all day.
Me
Absolutely.
too.
Why?
What do you mean,
Better
why?
than the Jets.
But I am. And Tim is here as well. I got
joking.
defense. We are big Mets fans. I'm a huge New York Mets fan.
Yeah.
Having a great year
Washington
there too.
Football team. By the
Well,
way,
listen, I'm not giving up on the Knicks, even though you said they're down, Tim. Because I got to be honest, if you remember Game 2, if you're going into half, we looked like we were about to get slammed at home, and we came back.
I know.
So
yeah, I hope they can take it, but maybe if they don't take it today, they just got to win one of these. And
they got to win one so they get home court back. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. All right, so let me go back in reverse order here. I want to say shout out and thank you to Tim Dog. Tim, honestly, it's been way too long, and listen. I'm a Mooch. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to hide again this long. I got to have you back on the show, Tim. So
definitely, I had an awesome time, awesome panel, really good subject matter. I mean, we just talked and the show flew by, and that's always a sign of a good show. But thank you for having me, and I'll definitely will be back.
Appreciate that, Tim. Thank you so much. And I got my buddy here, Nicholas Downey, a.k.a. Undead, at Undead, which, by the way, don't call him that because he's changing it soon. Nick, honestly, I gotta be really, really frank with you. Having you on the show is just, it's a breath of fresh air because a lot of times we can get into a lot of the console war stuff. And don't get me wrong, I think that's a lot of fun. But at the same time, you're like, hey guys, let's take a step back. Everybody take a deep breath and let's put the true facts on the table. So Nick, just like your great articles that you write, and I'm so glad to see you're back out there writing again. Let people know where they can find you, and I really appreciate you being a part of the show.
Absolutely. And you can find me on Twitter currently at Undead3XVI. I'll be tweaking that over the next couple of days. But you'll be finding my stuff back with the Iron Lords again here over the E3 weeks and the coming weeks. Nice. And we're exciting little live stream going on tomorrow. It's us versus a couple of the guys over at Kn1ght Games. We're going to be playing them 3v3 in Iron Harvest tomorrow to celebrate the new DLC launching via THQ. So shout out to all the guys there, and hopefully we'll not lose this time. But yeah,
so it's
always a good time.
Appreciate you being here, Nick. Really, really do. And then Eric Cuts for the win. Erica, boy, on fire tonight. On fire tonight. I'm even scared to see what's going to happen in the post-tweeting that's going to happen in the evening. And you're on the West Coast, so you got 3 more hours of it than we do. So shout out to Erica. Erica, outstanding stuff you're doing on your YouTube channel. Shout out to Shar, too, who does a great job with you on the gaming backlog. And listen, let people know where they can find you. And I can't wait till we can make our schedules work again so we get you back on the show.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a good time. The chat, They're kind of coming at me, but it's all fun. It's all fun in games. It's all it is games, right? So, Eric Cuts for the win. You guys search that anywhere: Twitch, YouTube, Twitter. You're gonna find me by that name. It's all over as far as gamer tags. I think some people were like, "Where's her trophies at?" Go search them. I beat Horizon, right? I beat them.
Get them, Erica.
They out here, they're coming at me a little bit now, but it was fun.
Ask them if they beat any Born Souls games. Ask them that.
You know the answer, Brap. You already know the answer.
They haven't beat them. That's what we already know.
It's so good.
Did they beat Returnal? Probably not. So, anyways, good times as always.
Did they plat the Bloodborne? Probably not.
Well, I didn't plat either, but anyways.
Oh, I did.
I'm not as diehard as I used to be, but go Lakers. I got to say
it. Wow.
You brought up the Knicks.
That's all right.
The Lakers, the Lake Show.
You have a better chance of going further into the playoffs than we do, unfortunately. I think the Knicks still have to get a good draft next year and maybe pick somebody up in free agency, but you guys have a much better shot.
It'd be crazy if it was Lakers Knicks though at the end.
It needs to be.
That'd be fun. But that's all I got to say. It was a good time. And I look forward to being back, of course. You guys have a good one. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Erica. Thank you. And then I've got Basement Radio Arcade Podcast, Brap. Brap, outstanding job tonight, as usual, buddy. Outstanding to have you here. I'm going to really try and talk you into buying Dying Light 2 on console. I know that... By the way, Blades is in the chat, and Blades is probably going to do a damn good job talking us both in the plane and on PC. But nonetheless, Brap, let people know where they can find you, and thanks for being here this evening.
No, actually, let me tell you something. Great show, great guest. Let me tell you, great seeing Tim Dog back on. I haven't done a podcast with Tim in like 3 years, I think, and I got to get him back on Brap. And great to see Nick and Erica and Crab, and just a great show. I missed it last week, and thank you again, Mooch, for having me on. Always appreciate it. Great times. And if you want to give me a follow on Twitter, Brap_podcast, and we're gonna do a Brap rant tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're gonna have Fame Entertainment on from Level 1 Gaming.
Oh, nice.
And we're gonna have Mr. Babbitt on. Yep, Mr. Babbitt on from the Show From Room podcast. We're gonna talk about E3, and we're gonna talk about the Randy Pitchford's early morning tweet at 7 a.m.
I had that on the list. We're
gonna talk about him kind of throwing Sony under the bus, maybe.
A little bit.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about that tomorrow. So
definitely ran over their foot at the very least. Yeah.
Randy's an interesting guy, by the way. He's
I would have liked that. Yeah, you know what? We can go to a whole nother segment, but I'd love to hear Nick's opinion on Randy one day too.
Yeah, I would too, Nick.
I've got stories.
I know. We got to have Nick back on, man. I might even have to do. We have to do a midweek crossfire. I really want to hear it. I had that as well. It's funny because I had the great Mods Gaming on a couple weeks ago, and I sent him, I think I told you guys this story last week, had him on the show, and I sent him, 10, 11, 12 topics. And he goes, Mooch, listen, he goes, I want to do the show. He goes, how long's your show? And I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, you sent me like 12 topics. I go, buddy, we're only going to get to like 2 or 3 of them. We don't always get to all of these topics. I go out there, I have my notes for all of these, because if the show moves quick, you got to have material, right? You got to have material. But nonetheless, I wanted to talk about that Randy Pitchford tweet, but we will get to it another time, or you can tune in tomorrow morning to Brap's show. So Brap, love the Saturday morning Braps, outstanding. By the way,
I appreciate it.
And let me just do a couple of quick plugs here for the guys that had to leave. The great Crap Gamer had to take off 9 o'clock. He's got things to do in the family. _Crap Gamer on Twitter, and it is Crap Gamer Reviews on YouTube. And also shout out to Xbot448 who was in the chat too as well. He works on Friday nights. So he'll be back next week. He works every other Friday. So he'll be back next Friday like he was here last Friday. Shout out to Xbot448. And it's the same thing on YouTube, Xbot448. Same thing on Twitter. And he did his next podcast yesterday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Guys, go check him out as well. Just trying to say, outstanding show. Thank you so much for the super chats. Thank you so much for the new members. Thank you for so many people that I saw subscribe tonight. Please do hit the subscribe button. I've got things coming down the road, and I don't like announcing things. I feel like it's E3. Mooch doesn't want to announce things and not have the show. When I have the show and it's completely ready to go, I will make the announcement. But we have things really, really close to being finalized. Guys, please hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and we will see you guys next Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Enjoy your Memorial Day holiday if you are here in the States. If you're not in the States, just enjoy your weekend and game and hang out with your friends and family. We'll see you guys next Friday, 7 p.m. Peace out. Good night.